So we do have a quorum today, I believe. So we can go ahead and do I have a motion to approve the agenda? Okay. Okay. The next item is approving the minutes.
I approve them as written. Oh, okay.
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
Here.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Discussions? Okay. All right, next on the agenda is, I don't have the agenda, so you have a copy of the agenda.
Oh, it's general fund budget review,
Okay.
but I think we,
And we'll give
Karina,
it,
we're going in police
we go-
department first.
we'll give it to Karina. Karina, you have the floor.
What's the date today?
6.
So Karina, you provided with us with adjusted or updated budgets. Is that right?
There were questions that were asked, so I sent the budgets with the information. The only thing we don't have is the analysis of the overtime. So that breakdown of what that overtime is for is not in there. But there is the breakdown of the uniforms in there. Ew.
So we're looking at the police department contractors and supplies. Oh no, PD uniforms tab, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we have a budget of 34,900.
Um. The budget for the PD is 5,776,000. It's an increase of 10%, but part of that increase is due to the pension. So benefits went up an extra 4% because of the previous year for the pension. The idea was 6%, but based on research, we're actually going to have to do 10% for the plan that is being proposed. The other item that would have gone up is for the professional services. We have to build that plan, and it's estimating to be around 100,000 with everything that needs to be done. And since it benefits the PD, the majority, almost 94%, that cost go in there. And then there's the reoccurring cost to maintain the plan that's in here. So that's increased the budget almost 160,000 for those two things. The only other thing, which is a small item, they had, council just approved the purchase of a Faro equipment. We have the reoccurring subscription for that, which is, $3,200. So that small increase there. Let's see what else. Uniforms are decreasing about 11,000 from last year, which the PD did provide a listing of what they intend to order. And because the chief is leaving, there's going to be a replacement for that. So that one, everything needs to be ordered. And then they've got various few things for others. And then we do have an open position and then different items that they want to replace. So they do have a listing of what they intend to do. For the travel, they have a listing of the trainings that they intend to send employees to. And they also have a listing of their community events. So let's see. So really the big increases are for the pension. I think travel increased a little bit.
There's the Kalea, under Kalea, there's a pretty good increase, but is that because it's got an on-site coming up next year?
The chief will have to answer to that, but part of the increase in here is because last year the salaries weren't budgeted. But in the previous year, we actually started just in FY24 to start allocating costs to those type of functions, such as the CLIA, such as parking enforcement, photo enforcement, the hospital costs. Those used to all be grouped in just unassigned. Now we're breaking it out to actually track those costs. So you do see an increase in there, and that's because now we're tracking those. So if you look at here, FY25, we didn't put the salary costs in there, but in FY24, we didn't have it budgeted, but we had it allocated. So this year I'm actually allocating the salaries to this. So it's actually, instead of going into 01 unspecified, it's actually going to the activity that it's supporting.
Okay.
But the parking is fairly new. That's something else that does have a supporting revenue for it. So last year, because it was our first year, our revenues were not as, did not see, our expenses were higher than our revenues, but this year so far we're okay. Photo enforcement is brand new. That one, we really don't know if the revenues are going to support the expenses because it is so new. There was a lot of sub costs, and then there is also we haven't established a process to collect delinquent photo speed tickets, so that needs to be established. The hospital, again, you can see that we didn't budget it, but in FY24 we actually put the expense that was supporting that activity. And so this year I'm doing the same thing. This year I'm going to budget for that activity, support it. We do get, the hospital provides 60 2.5% of the cost. So that is revenue to us to support that cost because there's 2 officers that are 100% to the hospital. There's the Explorers activity, which seems almost consistent. I mean, we did budget pretty high, but we haven't had that activity here. The budget this year seems pretty consistent with the last year's. Then we have the events. The events budget is higher than previous years. So they did provide us a listing. So if you have any questions regarding the events, so they did provide the event and the estimated cost of those events. The police are here if you want to ask them any questions about the events.
So do we have, who's the speaker for the police?
Either one of them.
Yeah, you want to say her here or?
Wherever you feel comfortable, sir.
He's comfortable anywhere, don't worry. Come on up here, come. That you might as well too.
First of all, I'd like to say congratulations on your retirement. I
Thank
believe
you.
it is.
Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So we have with us the police chief and
Yeah, I'm Carl Schinner. I'm the police chief. Matt Norris is a captain and he will be serving as acting chief once I depart.
congratulations to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Well deserved. Any questions we can answer?
I'm familiar with the events. How old is this photo enforcement program?
6, 7 months, and it didn't all come up online at one time. The cameras on Radio Station Road came up first, and then the ones on Route 6. And that was just because the ones on Route 6 are on a state highway, and you had to jump through a few more hoops in order to get the permitting done. It was much easier on the county roadway over there on Radio Station.
Because the contractual services, is it just timing?
Well, no. So actually, when you look at the contracted services, that has increased 114. Part of that is because of the pension plan that's being proposed. The actual cost for the photo enforcement, the parking tickets, all that is going into the program category. So I separated that out so that it's not into all the other general operations. So that, because those like the photo enforcement, the parking enforcement, all that has supporting revenues. So that's separated out. And also the photo enforcement is brand new. So that's also why the budget's going up, because there's 177,000 for photo enforcement for the contract that's the vendor that we use.
And as Karina talked about, one of the things that we're seeing now that we're getting a few months into the program is I think our pay rate's somewhere between 55 and 60% when people receive their citation. So it's collecting the people who aren't paying, and there's various ways of doing that, flagging tags and then employing a collection agency. So that's one of the things that Karina and I have on our list to make sure we get taken care of.
Okay, so if it basically flagging it, I guess would be the least expensive. I would presume.
It is, but here's the challenge, Mr. Norris. Virginia, you can be a Maryland resident, go into Virginia and register your car, pay a one-time non-insurance fee, and you can have a Maryland address with Virginia tags. And a lot of the folks, not all, but a portion of the folks that aren't paying their citations have Virginia tags. And it makes it difficult, if not impossible, for us to flag those because they're out of state.
Okay,
State of Maryland's missing out on a ton of revenue because Virginia does that and allows Maryland people to register their vehicles. So you would think it'd be an attention getter in Annapolis.
Or don't they have to inspect or anything like, but do they still have personal property in Virginia?
I think, yeah, Matt.
There's
you know,
exemptions if you live in Maryland, though. You can still register
Oh,
your car
okay.
in Virginia
Okay,
and live over here, and you just pay it. It's a non-insured motorist fee of like, I think it's like a one-time payment of $500 when you register your car, and you don't even have to carry insurance over there. So, yeah, it's unfortunate, but
Do we have any relationships with the Virginia motor vehicles? To,
Well, it's about reciprocity, and that's one of the things we have to explore is if they'll accept our reciprocity. Will Maryland flag theirs, then they will flag Virginia's, but it's the program's fairly new, and we've been talking to chiefs throughout the state who have operated these programs for years to get advice. But we are closer to Virginia than most any other agencies except those in Montgomery County, you know, so the Virginia tags do hurt us.
And didn't you say that they had, they were supposed to in the contract follow up on delinquent? And
So that's where we have an issue is that the contract, what we signed, says that they would do the collections and apparently, state law doesn't allow that.
Yeah, that's what they're telling us. They're telling us that Maryland state law doesn't allow them to be the vendor that issues the citations and do collections.
so can it be written that you're the vendor issuing the citations and they're the collection agency?
Well, then we would have to own the equipment.
And we don't.
We don't, yeah. And one of the things is, you know, the state kind of sets the regulations on equipment and that can change from time to time. Well, if it does, then they're responsible to update, upgrade, whatever it may be. I don't know any municipality or county in the state that operates its own program because of the expense of the cameras.
So was there a cost associated with the fact that they were doing the collections that you can
Well,
roll into next year and have a credit or something?
we need to talk to them about the contract. So we have not paid any of the invoices. They actually have not even invoiced us.
Well, that was one of the things because they did not go up online, Karina, at the same time. We should only be paying for 2 cameras for while they were operational and then when the other 2 came online. So that's one thing when you get that bill or we get the bill, we'll sit down and go, hey, when do things come online?
Well, they did provide what it's gonna be considering that, but my issue is in the agreement, they were supposed to do the collections and we have a contract for a certain amount. Now they can't fill that.
Right.
So there should be some negotiation with how much we are supposed to pay.
Agreed.
But again, this is brand new, so we don't know what the revenues are the net revenues are gonna look like until we actually get into this and develop a process for collecting delinquent tickets and for what actually the cost of those cameras are.
And who sets the cost, the fee that is charged? Is that set by the state or is
It-
that set by you?
It's set by the state of Maryland. And there is a bill in Annapolis that I know the Maryland Municipal League testified on, as well as the Maryland Chiefs Association, that would increase the fines. So it doesn't matter if you're doing 12 over or 100 over, your fine is $40 in Maryland. So they want to prorate it. So if you're doing 25 over, then it costs more. If you're doing 50 over, it costs a whole lot more. So, and we do know there are some folks who like to see how fast they're going. They pay their $40.
To get their picture.
They get their picture, they put it up on social media and they cover the cost of the ticket and more because people click on their photos. So it's things that have technology in social media, things that have to be worked out through the legislation in Annapolis.
And can you move them around?
Yes,
Oh,
ma'am.
you do, don't you?
We
Or
do.
maybe that's Waldorf that does
Right
that.
now, we have 6 approved sites and 4 cameras. So every Sunday night, they come in and they move the cameras to where we ask them to. The cameras with the most violations are the one on Route 6, Port Tobacco Road by ANS. Those seem to be very steady and you don't see the normal decline. We had these in Greenbelt and you would put them out and then you would, for a while you would see, and then you would see decline because local residents learn that they're there. One of the things we have reached out to the county school system is with the Phoenix School sitting on Catalpa Drive, that if they can designate that area 301 as a school zone where we get speeding complaints all the time, and you have buses coming in and out, we would approach the state about putting them there on 301 at Catalpa.
So you don't know whether you've broken even yet, because you haven't had any
No.
invoices or anything to,
I have an idea of what the invoices will cost, but the problem is, I don't know how many are unpaid and what our collection rate is gonna be, because we haven't done that yet.
Hmm.
So if you base it on who's paying on time right now and the cost, we're not breaking even, but we don't know what our collection rate is gonna be.
And we can give Karina at any time a report as to each camera and what's been generated, what they say has been paid, and it doesn't go by dollar amount, it goes by citations. So
they're all $40 each, right?
they're $40 each, right?
We've seen those reports.
Yeah.
Martha and I looked at them, but we haven't gone in and who's gonna do the collections? We haven't done anything.
Right.
They haven't done anything, so I really don't know
Right.
what rate, after we send out late notices and say, hey, this is delinquent, what rate are we gonna get collections on?
Right, because collection agencies tend to want a little bit of money out of each citation because they're the ones doing the hard work. Yeah.
But it's something that we're actually looking that we could do internally, like we've discussed
Mm-hmm.
before. We do have the staff that could do it internally. If by the 180 days, they don't do it, that the police then go. put
We
it
can
in-
flag tags and you all, if you
Yeah.
want to make the phone
And we
calls.
could
Yeah.
do we could take care of it up to the 180 days.
Well, I just have a general question. First of all, the police department here in La Plata is outstanding.
Thank you.
They've used, you guys responded to several issues I had personally, so it was wonderful. No more than 2 minutes that you guys arrived, so that was, I thank you for your service for that. What are the top two major challenges that the police department is facing currently?
Well, I think it's like any police department or sheriff's department in the nation right now, it's recruitment and retention. There's not a lot of folks out there who want to be police officers or sheriff's deputies or troopers. So making sure that when we hire good people and, we try to hire young people, send them through the police academy. And then, I'm an old Orioles fan. They used to call it the Oriole way, to raise them up the way you want them. And we try to do that here. So recruiting and retaining our folks is the two most important things to us.
Okay. So anything else? Any other challenges that you face? Growing community?
Well, the growing community, and revenues don't come in as fast as the community grows. So making sure we have sufficient staffing in order to cover the road. Those things are important. I am very thankful for our government here who has ensured that our people are well equipped and they're well trained. So although there's challenges, there's lots of other really good things that go on here. Matt, I don't know if you have anything as far as challenges go, but we never know what's going to hit next. Fentanyl or you see PCP come in here in cycles or whatever it is, but those are always challenges to us, but our folks have been able to rise up to them. And we have seen, just to kind of let you know, I've been here since 2013, November of 13. And if you map out kind of linearly, we have seen about 5.5 to 6% growth in calls for service every year. So, and then on the other side, the sheriff's department's here and they're absolutely outstanding to work with. The relationship here is very different than I was used to in Greenbelt with Prince George's County. It wasn't bad there, but here it's exceptional. We work a lot of things together. Their assists continually have gone down to where, other areas of the county tend to be a little bit more busy. So they move resources to where they're needed, like any police department or sheriff's department in the nation. So it's just managing that 6% growth. When we talk to council about this, I always talk about you have call volume. And call volume to me is the wind blew really hard the other day and the alarm calls came in and one or two officers go to that, walk around and make sure everything's secure and you're done. And they're there for a minute or two. But we're seeing more and more call complexity, which means it requires multiple officers and they're on the scene a lot longer. So it's just part of the growth that goes on in any community. But they're not bad challenges. They're just things that, we have to deal with. The officers, all right, just talk about the officers at the hospital. One of the things that we noticed was we were spending a whole lot of time at the hospital. So officers would go out on the road, there'd be an incident at the hospital, and all of a sudden we're losing a car or an officer, sometimes for hours at a time while they're dealing with whatever happened at the hospital and the aftermath of that. So we sat down with the hospital and we laid out statistics and we entered into a contract with them to where we provide first one officer full-time and then a second officer full-time. And in exchange for that, they paid
2.5%.
Yeah, 0.5% of pay, benefits and equipment. So it's twofold. It keeps our officers from having to go to the hospital other than a backup role for 80 hours a week. But it also provides two officers that if they're not busy and something happens in the town, they're able to respond, help out with the patrol units and then get back. We were going to be at the hospital anyway, because it's in the town and we had to respond to those calls. So if we can get 66 and 0.5% of two people's salaries and keep our people on the street and patrol and then have the backups that can come out, to us, it was financially kind of savvy to do that. Greenbelt, we did that in Greenbelt with Beltway Plaza to where sometimes we had as many on a Saturday night as 3 officers handling things there. So we entered into a public-private partnership with them and it worked out really well. We just brought that idea here, so. Any other questions?
I do have one. And this has to be on my logic. When I was first looking at the budget, I think you have 29 officers.
28.
28, okay. And did some research to see, well, what's the average per capita at a municipality? And it was lower than that, significantly lower. What's wrong with my logic?
We have 28 staff, not officers.
No, we have 32 staff, 28 officers.
Okay. Just missing something though.
Are you talking about active officers? I thought there was 29 positions for officer.
28.
I have 29 on.
There's not 29 in payroll.
Oh, wow.
So we only
Maybe
have
we'll get 2 openings.
25 on the road.
So
The per capita, like, go ahead. Ben.
yeah, the per capita theory is not generally accepted. The International Association of Chiefs of Police looks at the amount of time that an officer is committed during the day. So on your midnight shift, they recommend that 75% of their time be uncommitted because you want them out riding around and looking and making sure things are okay. Usually your day work shift is more than that, much more than that, because not only do they have all the traffic volume that they're dealing with and the car collisions, they also have the court time that they're at, and the evening shift tends to be the busiest shift, at least for domestics and things like that. So you look at how much available time there is, and it's very different than population theories. We have subscribed since I've been here to the IACP model, and I think it has served the citizens well.
Okay, so I take that back to something you said earlier when you were answering Randy about the growth here since you've been here, since 2013, up 5%. My mind immediately went to, well, the population growth during that time period may have been same, less. But what I'm hearing from you is population growth is probably a small segment too. How to determine the proper size of the police department.
Yeah, and I think it depends on where your police department or your municipality is located. So we're the county seat. We have lots of things here. We have the hospital, the county government here, which unfortunately I don't believe brings any revenue into us whatsoever. but we tend to be busier. We also sit in the 301 corridor. And each year when we sit and we look at who our officers are interacting with and arresting, it's not a high percentage of the overall arrests that are folks from La Plata, Charles County, but we have from Prince George's and King George, and we have them, some that come in from Baltimore. The 301 corridor brings with us the ease of traveling north and south. It also brings people who with nefarious ideas that want to come in, and it's easy to get in and out of north and south.
So I appreciate that answer because it points out that we're not a normal municipality. We are a county seat. Yeah, we've got a growing hospital right in the middle of it. So, and a major corridor. So, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, in my time in Greenbelt, our nighttime population was 25,000 and our daytime population was about 135,000. So how do you figure out, plus you had the Capitol Beltway and the Baltimore Washington Parkway going through there that we weren't responsible for, but we ran mutual aid to the troopers and the U.S. Park Police several times a day. So population theories, there's always something to look at, but we try to follow the IACP model.
But La Plata would be the flip of that, right? Because most of the people here go out during the day.
Exactly.
So your activity's more in the evening and nighttime than it is daytime,
It
maybe?
is, but if you look, we're kind of the trade center for southern part of Charles County. So our big box stores tend to keep us busy. The box stores, the hospital, and then we have 2 hotels that tend to keep us busy as well.
The jail releases,
Yeah.
all your other government buildings. We have all the schools here, so.
Yeah. Now, everybody that the commissioner releases on personal recognizance walks through La Plata if they don't have a ride. And we frequently interact with those folks.
And
We also have it's gotten somewhat better, but we have a homeless population.
Mhm.
And since COVID or during COVID and since COVID, we saw a definite increase in interactions with people who are homeless and people in mental health crisis. So one of the things we try to do is called CIT training. We try to get our officers 40 hours of CIT training to help them when they go into calls with people in mental health crisis. And it's all about de-escalation. If we can de-escalate it and then try to get them to the mental health facility or whatever it is, we're all better for it. But those calls take time. You just don't walk in and go, hey, we're going to go to the hospital. You have to be able to sit down and be willing to chat with people and try to talk the situation through.
The IACP, what model we were talking about, what is that?
It's a staffing model. It's the International Association of Chiefs of Police. It's their staffing model. I took a 40-hour course on it after I graduated the academy. I think Captain Norris was exposed to it when he was going to command school at Northwestern.
It was my project for Northwestern. It's a resource allocation formula, basically.
Is that something you guys could share?
No, it's extremely expensive. You wouldn't like it.
Well, I think she would because it's mathematical, you know?
No,
I mean,
it's great. It's a great formula, but there's a lot of money in the software and you just have to have valid input for it,
I'll
honestly.
say it's the valid input that's the toughest. We did it twice in Greenbelt when I was there with pencil and paper and asking officers to write everything they did down. That's not something the cops like to do, throughout the day, but if you got good data in, then you get good analysis at the backside of it.
And that's what I'm trying to get the good data in so that we can do some analysis that we haven't been doing.
If you have any contacts with the sheriff's office, I know they use the model kind of, but they pick and choose which inputs they like to use in it to get it however they need it to be. But it may not be as in-depth as somewhere else, but it may be more in-depth than other places. But because you can mold that formula of what you're looking for. Like if you're like for us, we wouldn't need to allocate time for our corrections or something like that, or certain things, civil service processes or something. So you could take those like time slots out because it's kind of like, I want to say it's kind of like a mechanics book where you have your hourly rate. Okay, well, this is a half hour of labor right here. And that's kind of how it functions. I can send you some of the stuff I have left over from Northwestern, but
So
I did a lot of the project and then even the instructor was like, yeah, you don't have to actually do this formula. You're never gonna be able to complete this in time. It's time consuming, but I can send you what I have.
I'm just curious, because if that's the model you're
Oh.
using, how did you input the data and get the idea of how many officers you guys need?
Two projects we've done in-house. I can pull that file and make sure you get a copy of it.
Because I know that as we grow, you're probably gonna want new officers, and being able to see that analysis, then that would give the justification of it.
Yeah, actually, in
PayPoint did one too.
I'll say PayPoint did one, and we're far behind what PayPoint said we need right now.
I'm looking at that data,
Yeah.
like, we're not even close to
Well,
what they
it's,
predicted.
it's how can you afford it? That's the thing.
I
But
mean, even the growth numbers that they have for population growth, it's not even near what we're at.
Right.
I have a Washington Post article from 4 or 5 years before I was chief, where they did some sort of study here, and it talked about the town needing 30 officers within 4 or 5 years, and we're wherever we're at now, 28 or 29, but.
And that was
I'll
before
get that in.
2013.
Yes, sir. Is anything else we can answer? Karina, you need anything?
No, I mean, the only thing I put in here down at the bottom, because you guys were $253,000 above my target, and part of that is because of the proposed pension and because of the new photo enforcement cost for that program. Without those, we would have been pretty much on target.
You need any discussion about the overtime analysis or?
Well, I think that's gonna be more in depth of actually evaluating where the overtime's at. Is there ways to mitigate that overtime based on scheduling? And that's gonna take time.
Well, it's extracting the data from the payroll system. So from 2014 through 2022, I did an overtime analysis, and we tracked every hour of overtime, and we would see where we were spending it. Some years we would find out that the state's attorney's office changed their policy on call and would not allow officers to be on call. So they mandated them to come to court. So when you look at a huge spike in court overtime, and we hadn't made a huge spike in arrests, we were able to figure out why. So we do this with use of force. We do it with our pursuits. We do it with grievances. Every year we do a detailed analysis. We have data from January 1 of 23 through like August 18th from the old payroll system that we were able to extract all the data. We know the new system, it's a really good system. It's just extracting the data out to tell us where we're spending our money. So we've made some recommendations on how maybe we can, you probably haven't had time to read it. I think it went out yesterday afternoon from Mike Payne, but we've got some recommendations on what we think could be done. But I think it is deeper analysis. It's just getting the data to come up with the,
Martha's gonna run some more reports and provide.
her and Mike have been working at it quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, to try to figure out where we can mitigate the overtime costs. And I know there's some that you can't at all,
Yeah.
like court, you can't, but maybe training, you could evaluate how they're scheduled and when they work based on what their training schedule is gonna be, planning that out, those type of things. The ones that you can.
We try.
control.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
thanks again.
Thank you.
You all stay warm.
Okay.
That wind out there cut right through you.
Congratulations on your tenure.
Thank you. 38 years is a long time to do anything, you know,
Yeah.
so. You'll have a good day.
You too.
Yeah.
You too. See, Max.
Is there any recommendations, any,
A question that comes out based on the last part of that discussion is, do we have the same payroll system for the entire town?
yeah, everybody's under the same payroll system, yes, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know you guys have a recommendation for pension, which is a separate.
Right.
That's where most of the cost of this is for that pension.
So that could be a selling point. We're able to work that down to the 457.
I mean, even
They
with
could still go after some more police officers, maybe. Not that I'm recommending that, but there's always a balancing.
Just going back to the pension, what is the cost going to be to manage the program annually?
we're estimating probably around 70,000
70,000.
with a 5% increase, which I put in here.
Yeah.
But I prorated it based on, so the police would be like 65,000, the other 5,000 would come out of Public Works. Because
Okay.
this pension benefits the police a lot more
So
than the Public Works.
The cost of the program itself is going to be about $606,000.
Well, there's 500,000 to grandfather in officers that have been here.
To bring them up to,
To basically be able to provide the benefits when they retire. Because if they've been here for 20 years and they're only gonna be here for 5 more years, then we need to make sure we have the funds to pay out the benefits.
so that's a one-time.
That's the 500,000 is a one-time.
So there's a 500,000 one-time.
Mhm. And then we're
And-
estimating about 100,000 to actually build the plan out, because it's brand new, nobody does it at all.
So 100,000 to build the plan out and then 70,000 on top of that.
Yes.
And then the monthly amounts to actually fund the plan
Correct.
on top of all of that.
Yes,
So 675,000 just covers getting the plan on the books. It doesn't
Correct.
cover the
Doesn't
actual
cover the-
month.
yeah, the actual cost we're estimating, originally the study said 6%, but based on what I'm seeing, we're gonna have to do at least 10%. So that's what I put in here is 10%
Okay.
salaries for that benefit.
So it's actually higher than the 675 that we've got in the line
Yeah,
item
so
of the
actually
budget.
I have it,
Mhm.
the amount, the fund year over year, well, at least for this year is 175,000 for the funding for the plan.
So,
And the cost to do the 457?
Well, I believe right now, if we did, for every 1% is like 57,000 for the whole town.
Mhm.
How much?
57
So
57.
you're still under
For
that.
every 1%.
for every
So
1%.
it's fifth.
So if you match 2%, it's 100 or 114.
Yeah, yeah.
so the ongoing costs are going to be 175 to fund it yearly plus the
Well,
70,000.
This
to-
year, but we anticipate the cost of maintaining this plan is gonna increase 5% because you have the attorney's costs that we have to deal with, who's gonna administrate the plan, because it's not gonna be internal, the auditing of the plan. So there's a lot involved in providing this. So I'm hoping it's no more than 70. We originally had only like 25,000 in here, but once we started researching it, we knew that wasn't gonna cover it.
Yeah, and the population of the people who receive the benefit is just going to continue to grow.
Mhm.
So we're looking at 675 to put it out there now,
Mhm.
plus 105 to build out the plan on day one. And then every year after that, a minimum of $245,000 to fund the plan annually, fund and manage the plan annually.
Well, it's actually a little bit more because we have to consider Public Works. This is just the PD. Public Works.
Yes,
It's
that
much
number
less.
is just PD, you're right.
um,
Yeah, Public Works was what, 11,000 or something?
Yeah, it's
Different
not-
parts, it was,
Yeah.
yeah.
But it also goes into, so with Public Works, I did 3%. Even though it said 1%, I did 3% because I don't think, even though it's a lesser of amount that Public
Mhm.
Works would get, we still need to make sure, because it all goes into one pot. It doesn't get, they don't have separate plans.
Right.
We still need to make sure those benefits are paid out. Some of the Public Works that have been here, that are on the old plan, it doesn't benefit at all. Because the increase in the benefit they already have with the old plan.
And someone would have to manage that pot.
Yep. And manage the investments, how it's gonna be invested and all that to ensure that we pay out. And if it doesn't go well, and they're paying out more than what's coming, then they're able to get returns on investments depending on the market. I mean, and we have a little tiny pool. So,
And you have to sync it with the state, you said.
yeah, because it's supposed to be a wraparound in the state. Yeah.
Meaning what?
Meaning that it's an extra, so they get the state and this plan is supposed to increase their benefit based on what they get from the state. So if the state changes something, we've got to then change our plan.
Yeah, the state's target used to be 8%. It's now 6.7 something, I think I saw, and just,
Employees contribute 7% for the state pension, and then the town is close to 12%.
right. No, but what I'm talking about is the investment return
Oh, yeah.
that the plan is looking for. That's decreased. I guess maybe they got more realistic. I don't know. Oh,
So the money that both the employee under the current Maryland state plan, the employee and the town both contribute.
Correct.
And that goes into, for lack of a better words, an endowment that the state retirement program is managing.
Correct.
And as long as department populations grow, that's going to keep that endowment alive indefinitely.
Yeah.
I just do not understand why we can't take advantage of such endowments. Like, in your investigations, have you explored companies like T. Rowe Price or BlackRock that manage these kinds of programs?
So our HR director reached out to a lot of different companies that do this type of work, but because there is no plan that's set up the way that the council chose, the plan that they chose, we've only found 2 companies that are willing to take on.
Yeah, that'll come with a big premium.
had they actually approved that this plan will go in effect?
No, because we don't even have a company to manage it yet.
So they only approved
They only do
funds
the
to
budget.
develop it. Right.
Correct.
Okay.
So they've not specifically said what it has to look like.
Well, they have a plan that they've selected that they want us to build based on that outline, and it's an outline.
Did it have numbers? Like when you just said the 12% and the.
Well, it doesn't say the percentage on there, yeah, of what they anticipate it to be based on Bolton study. I think I provided that study to you guys. I don't know if I
The
did.
more we talk about this, the more strongly I feel that 457 is the approach.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, we all agree that. So,
I'm just not being talked into the approach that I'm hearing from the council. So
I think it's a significant amount of money
It is.
to be putting out there with not the best return for the actual employees. I don't see this as being the
Well, if
best
you
thing
look
for them.
at the amount that we would have to pay year over year for it, that is like, what, 2.5%, 3% of the officer's salary, just for the fees to maintain
Yeah.
it.
So there has to be another way to get the same outcome by using something that's already established, that we don't have to build it.
right. And you mentioned that there were only 2 companies actually willing to explore this idea when there's oodles of companies out there that are already the foundations for such.
That ought to tell you something right there.
Mhm.
Right.
And I've
It'd
never
be a
heard
lot
of
of
these
work for
companies
them.
that-
Yeah.
Well, that would be
so-
worrying as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yep.
but you've heard of companies like
Mhm.
I forgot the name already.
Vanguard.
That's right. And T. Rowe Price, and BlackRock. I mean, those companies are probably the foundations for like the Maryland State Program.
I mean,
They got somebody managing that money.
Here's- the other reason that I would put 457 is it gives employees more options. They're investing this money. When they retire, they can
Yeah.
choose what to do with it. They aren't stuck at this is the amount that you get and that's it.
Yeah.
Because also the plan that they're looking at has no COLA or anything. And you're asking, or employees are retiring 15 years before the Maryland State pension would pick up, which has a COLA. They were stuck at that flat amount. So by doing this, they get to choose what they want to do with the funds. And if they do want a monthly amount, they could purchase an annuity with it. They would have a choice to do that. Instead of saying, nope, this is the only option you have and you don't get to choose anything else, where 457, you could have other options.
Is the council considering that the employee would contribute to this?
No, but that has been brought up to them.
The reason why I bring that up is it's not uncommon for young people, 20s and 30s, not to be interested in contributing into such retirement
Mhm.
programs. And that would further hurt the program because down the road, they still might get the part that's funded by the town, but compared, let's say Joe and Mary both retired at the same time and Mary's chosen to put into it and Joe hasn't, then
Well, the pension, the enhanced pension would be 100% covered by the town right now. That's what's, yeah. There has been some suggestion that the employee should, if we go this route with the pension, that they should contribute. And then if we do end up switching to a 457, there's been talk that they would give these positions that have more of a physically demanding job a certain percentage and then a matching on top of that.
Right.
So next item, is that, everybody
That's
okay? Next item on the agenda?
All right, so did you guys want to look at planning? The only thing I changed was I put the amount, that 90,000 for that study, that land use study in there. That was a request by Councilman Jenkins. Other than that, nothing else.
so while you're on that subject, that's almost a whole man year of work, right? It's pretty much a full-time employee.
You could say that.
Average.
I mean, it's been in this budget, or it wasn't in FY 25, but it was in FY 23 and 24, and it just never been done. Nobody solicited to start a RFP for it. Nobody took, I guess, the steps to start that project, and Councilman Jenkins has been asking for it.
And what exactly is it for?
It's this, from my understanding, it's to study how we use land between business and residential and what type of revenue would that generate?
I'm thinking, I'm gonna bring my planning council experience into this, planning commission experience. Every 10 years, they do the comprehensive plan. And the planning department has hired a contractor to help with that. It's been about an 18-month time period where they're heavily involved. I'm wondering how different this is. Has this become a annual thing? And then when I hear you say that it's been there 2 or 3 years and they haven't pursued it, I'm hearing a council person wants it, but does the department want it?
And I think that's where the issue was, that the planning department didn't think it was necessary, and
So it's sat in the budget.
Well, I don't think it's necessary every year. It is necessary during the time period of developing the comprehensive plan, which we're 5 years away from, so. The other comment that I had, if you allow me to go off that topic, you had McCrone up there for plan reviews and you have Plan Check for plan reviews. McCrone, a much smaller amount.
yes. So there's the plan reviews that we have for the residents for what they pay to have done, and that's what the 90,000, the McCrone is for internal that the town needs them to do.
Oh,
So those aren't reimbursable. The other ones are.
oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the difference.
And Macron is, now I've forgotten where it is now, but it was a big number for Macron in,
Probably water and sewer, because they're doing some work. I mean, we have Kirk here, who's the superintendent at the wastewater treatment plant, that can talk about McCrone.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
Is Nicole in this meeting?
Hmm?
Is Nicole present?
She said she was going to be late
Oh, okay.
because noon was too early for her.
Gotcha.
Macron, they do all engineering that we do in the town. So currently we've got all the expansion going on at the wastewater plant. So they're doing all the design for that. They're also handling all of the whole USDA loan project. They do all the paperwork for that and stuff like that. And then they also do all the water and sewer reviews for the town. So whenever there's anything with water and sewer, they do the initial reviews and then they come to me and then I review them.
Okay.
And then on top of that, they're currently working on our water model as well, which kind of will show us throughout the whole town how, if you build a house over here, what it does to the water for the rest of the town.
Okay.
So,
Where are
Oh,
they
so they're
based?
looking at water and sewer. I'm sorry.
yep,
Where are they based?
Annapolis.
Annapolis?
They've been your engineer for quite some time, right?
Yeah, they have, I think, over 20 years experience in the town. So
So they
they,
put the last set in, when they did all the renovations and everything to the wastewater plant last time, were they involved in that? When they upgraded to the ENR?
no, I don't think they
That
weren't.
wasn't them?
No, that wasn't them. I think that was GHD
Okay.
back in 2010. I think that's what that was.
The improvements you're making to wastewater treatment plant. Some way we're enlarging the pods or we make them more efficient or what?
So there's two things going on at the plant. One is that we have aging infrastructure. So a lot of the stuff that was done is 20 years old. We have some other things that are 50 years old. So we have tanks that are 50 years old and need to be upgraded. So we have that in upgrading the infrastructure because it's just failing over time because it's old.
Okay,
The other thing is we're also increasing capacity. So we're kind of, hitting both things at
but
once.
how do you increase capacity?
Uh,
We've got a limited amount of space down there.
Correct. So we have, the wastewater plant is essentially 4 little plants is kind of what it is. It's 4 mods. We have 4 mods. And so those
Okay.
mods handle a certain amount of flow. Well, we have a way to upgrade that capacity of those. So currently they're at 375,000 is what their daily limit is. We can increase that to 625, which is what
On
we
the
did
same
But,
footprint?
but
on the same footprint. Well, we have to build a new tank to get to this higher footprint.
Yeah.
But I
is
mean,
yeah, that's what I'm curious about,
Yeah.
is the footprint. Is it the pod taller or?
no, so like I said, there are essentially 4 little mini plants.
Right,
Well, there's 2 parts of that mini plant that we can take out and we're going to convert an existing tank to handle one thing and we're building another tank to handle another thing. So we're, the tanks are like 3/4 used for treatment and then
Okay.
1/4 of them is used for essentially water storage is about what it is. Well, this upgrade we're doing is we're using the whole thing, not just 3/4 for treatment.
okay,
So the goal was to go from the 375 to 625.
okay. No, that's great.
And then we also have enough land there where we can add more mods if we need to. So there's the 4 modules. We can add more, a 5th and a 6th if.
Did we
10,
ever
20.
put in the overflow mod?
The tank, the giant tank, yes, we have a giant tank there.
Okay,
So when you're improving one of the 4, that's pretty much putting that quadrant out of service. So that increases the
Mhm.
demand on the other 3
Mhm.
during that mod?
Yeah.
Okay. And since we're, the general is 3/4 capacity, you can do that?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
And the stormwater doesn't go into the,
Nope, we are not combined here. It's just the
it's
sewer.
just,
Now we,
most of the time.
oh, yeah, bubbling down.
Yesterday might have been an exception.
I mean, I was gonna say, we do get some I&I, which is, where the,
You don't
Water
get
we
there
don't
as much as we did years ago, though.
Yeah.
no,
it's
not nearly as
definitely
much as it used to
improved,
be. But that's, putting this money, investing in the infrastructure helps with that.
Right.
So how much is a mod? One new mod?
How much does it cost? What did we, is that what it costs to upgrade it?
Yeah,
And that's on cap.
that's on the capital, the enterprise fund side, which we actually are using the major facility fees to cover it. So those are the fees that are paid for new development of houses. So that's not coming from the residents for this capacity increase.
And that's logical because that's the new homes and businesses are creating the demand that's requiring the increase. right?
Yep.
That's the whole point of that fund is the whole point is you're not taxing current users of the system.
Right.
You're making new people pay for the,
What is a single unit of the major facility fee now?
Right now, I want to say it's like 17,000. I am actually, one thing we'll talk about is fee increase. I actually think we need to go up closer to 20,000
Okay.
for it. because I did the analysis last year budget, but they didn't want to increase it that much. But to continue with because all the mods are gonna need to be upgraded.
Right,
To continue that, we need to increase that fee.
okay.
Yeah.
But that also includes water too. So as demand goes, water demand goes up too.
Right.
So, I mean, we're good now, but at some point, we might have to add another water tower in town or
Right.
something like that.
Are you superintendent for both?
Yeah.
Water and sewer?
So in the beginning, you said, two mods are 50 years old. Is that?
The tanks are 50 years old. Yeah, they were built in the 70s. Yep.
But they were upgraded in 2010, right?
They were upgraded in, I
Significantly.
think they were upgraded in 2000 and then again in 2010.
So
But
twice.
the actual structure of the tanks was
Yeah,
was
the actual
not.
concrete,
So
yeah. The
they,
internal piece,
Yeah.
right?
Is there any more questions with planning? Because we can go into, the enterprise funds. Did you want to make a recommendation about the 90,000 in this budget?
If my logic is correct, I would recommend that we do not include it in the
Okay.
budget because the department evidently doesn't see the need,
Mhm.
except apparently around comp time, comprehensive
Okay.
planning time.
And I'm sure you know this, but right now we do not have a planning director. We are.
Well, yeah.
Another reason to wait.
Do we know where we stand on that?
As far as I know, we have not had any qualified applicants.
Oh.
Yeah.
Joe, you interested?
I've been unqualified enough for other things I've done. I don't think I want to take on anything like that.
Who said anything about qualifications?
Right.
Oh, you did, right?
So if there's if that's something that you guys want to make a recommendation on, we can do that, because we have two of them already that you guys have.
I put a motion out there that we recommend that be put on hold
That's a good way.
till the new planning
second that.
director comes on board.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay. We have a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Right. Let me just make a note here.
So before we go into the enterprise fund, can we take a 5-minute break?
Yeah.
Is that possible? I like the idea of incentivizing, when they pass their,
Well, that's always been the way we do it, is as you get licenses, you get immediate raises as you get your licenses. We've just made it a little bit better this year, so.
raises or stipends or
You get an actual pay raise.
Salary increase, yeah.
salary increase? Okay.
And I also like the fact that you have them going to all the different conferences.
Yes.
I think that's really important too.
Well, that's also a double-edged sword, because then they meet the people that like.
That's true too. That's true. That, but if you didn't do it, that would be, that would be nightmare itself.
The big one is the short course that they offer in Western Maryland. And
Mhm.
I think it's like $600 a person.
Yeah, but
And
that's, they're there for
room and
4
board.
days, right?
Yeah, it's room and board for 4 days or, 5. Yeah, they go up Sunday night and they have meal Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then
And
breakfast Friday
then,
morning.
and they do their exam on Friday
Yeah.
for the actual certification.
No, that is a
Yeah.
steal. Like when I saw the person, I'm like, I want to send as many people as I can.
Oh, yeah.
Mr.
And they
Vice Chair,
don't
if I
like-
may, for the record,
Yes.
can we note
Sorry.
that the microphone was turned off at 1:08
Yes.
PM for a recess? And we're
Yes.
now resuming?
Yes, sorry.
Yep.
Okay, so, are we okay with,
Well, before we go on to the enterprise funds, we do have the street that you guys asked for listing of the repairs. So they did send me a listing of the sidewalk repairs that they budgeted for, and then a listing of street repairs. I do not think this is a complete list, but so they added 100,000 into this budget to cover street repairs that haven't been done for several years. The question is, these street repairs, are they for water because of water leaks, or are they because of the use of the street? And they're gonna get back to me on that. They were not able to identify how much of that is for water leaks or for street repairs. But regardless, even with that, they're still within very close to their target.
So not to complicate your communication with them, do you differ between water and stormwater?
Yes, we do.
Okay, because some of the reasons why sidewalks need repairs because of failed stormwater lines.
That I will bring that up as another thing to make note of. Let me put that in here.
I see Clark's Run and King Grant have 4 or 5 each
Oh, it's a mess.
of street repairs
Mhm.
they've got listed.
Well, they built King's Grant and I think they put stormwater pipes in that the planners from here said had a 20-year life.
Hmm.
And that was 25 years ago.
Mhm.
Same in Clark's Run,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Mhm.
That is one of the projects for, so our asset manager is to start building a plan of what assets do we have? What stage are they in? Do they need to be repaired, replaced, and try to do a long-term forecast? So we're starting with the fleet first because we think that's the easiest to start and kind of learn how we build that so that we can build for the other type of assets.
Yeah, I'll just give you an anecdote. I live on a corner in Parks Run. And it's been quite a few years now, but during a heavy rain like yesterday, the stormwater line that ran from across the street to my catch basin, so catch basin, street, catch basin, just blew up and water was just spouting all up in the air. And when they came by to fix it, and they did a great job fixing it, they put in that black pipe, probably gonna last forever. And I was talking to the engineer at the time and response was, we can only afford to deal with the emergencies. This was an emergency. That's why you see us. So putting this asset plan together gets us out of that mode of thinking. Now it's going to be a lot of catch up, but at least we're thinking about, okay, here's the priority.
Yep.
And let's go after the ones that we know have service past their lifetime, but are likely to go at any minute.
Is there anything else with streets?
Oh, ma'am.
Let's go to, Go to the enterprise fund.
We're going to enterprise now.
We went through sanitation. They are looking at, an option to create a fee for a second can. One of the things that is a little bit of a challenge is nobody knows who was keeping track of how many cans each resident has, but there apparently is a list. So they need to identify that. The other thing that you guys asked about was being able to weigh the cans and determine how much the weight is. I talked with, the director of public works, and he says at this time, their trucks do not have a weight system on that, so
Oh,
that.
I know that.
So we don't.
It's something that be added.
Yeah.
I wonder what it would cost to modify the trucks to have that, because I think the cans actually come with numbers on them.
They do,
They do.
they do. And
As
that's.
a matter of
they're
fact, they
trying to
know
find-
where they actually had sensing equipment on there. If so-and-so's can was not at, this was initially. I don't think they're paying attention to it now, but they knew where the can belonged.
But on my walk, was it Monday, was trash day for us? Or maybe it's even yesterday. You also have the issue where a can overflows, or even two cans overflow, and then a whole bunch of trash is piled alongside of that. I don't know how
Yeah,
that
we-
may become the exception to.
We did talk about that, and one of the suggestions was that if residents are doing that, sanitation would contact code enforcement, and code enforcement would then issue a citation or whatever.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
Let's educate them first.
yeah, I would.
Maybe put it in the
Maybe
next,
Would educate them first.
put it in your next letter, your next
Yeah.
newsletter.
So they were tracking it. They know that there's a list somewhere, but unfortunately with all the turnover, they're trying to seek out that. So that is an option, and that's probably going to be the route that we go, is to charge for a second can.
Okay, in other words, if they buy an extra can, then they can expect to pay more whether they got it out there or not.
Well,
If you used to have two cans over one, you're going to be charged for two.
But that's where the value of putting a weighing system on the truck comes into place. Because if you have two trash cans and you're only emptying one half of one on this particular day,
Well, it would be a billing nightmare if you start saying, okay, well, since you only have this much weight and you have two cans and then we're only gonna bill you for that. It's just easier to just, here's the fee for one can. The second can is, say, I'm just throwing out numbers. The fee for one can is $100 every 3 months. The second can is $50 every 3 months, something like that. It's kind of what we're playing around with. Hey, all right, how are you? I think those were the issues with sanitation. So as soon as I get some information back and see how we can implement something like that, I can see what the effects on the budget are.
but I'm looking at the tab, it says personnel summary.
On sanitation?
Yeah. Doesn't seem. Oh, maybe it is. So the town is able to empty everyone's trash cans with 8 people, roughly, 8 to 9 people.
Well, and I don't know how much you know about sanitation, but I'm assuming the crew leaders are the drivers, and then they have the techs. There's probably 8 people, but then there's probably other people. So there's 12.25 allocated here. I want to say there's probably 8 or 9. No, I know there's 2 of the drivers, the crew leaders, there's 2 there. So there's probably 10 or 11 that are actually 100% to sanitation.
Okay.
They're
You got
increasing.
your 2 guys on the back
And a driver.
and the driver.
Right.
Yeah, so there would be 9 because
And how many trucks do we have?
we have 5 trucks, but we utilize 2 to 3 at a time.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. And mechanic fleet is empty. Is that because, do we have our fleet maintenance done in another department?
Yes, we have a fleet maintenance department.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Anything?
So this whole thing is all done just with crew leaders and the guys on the back of the truck. Everything else is zero.
Yep.
And this is per the department request?
Yes, this is what they
I
sent
wouldn't
me.
argue with that then. It's working, right?
Yeah. Yeah, my concern was the cost, that the expense, how it's increasing and the revenue to cover it. So I did do an update on the rate because I went in and determined the cost, the overhead cost for the general fund to support them. And then I also did a increase on the account maintenance fee, which is supposed to help offset some of the general fund costs from the enterprise funds. I am proposing an increase of $1 increase for that, which is slightly over 5%. I think that's what it was, slightly over 5%. We did not increase it last year, and part of the reason why I did not propose an increase last year is because we were increasing all the other fees on every fund. But this year, by doing that, that did increase the account maintenance fee, which is offsets the amount that we would have to increase the rate to break even. So the break even rate was like 8.24, I believe, prior. Now it's 7.85 for the sanitation. So I will have to get with Public Works and see how they are tracking the trash cans and see what the effects are if we charged for the second can, and see how that helps with the rates. Is there any other questions for sanitation?
So when you just said 5% increase, Russell, that's significantly less than the increase of workers since 24, fiscal 24. Does the fiscal 26 take into account the growth of Pine Grove?
There is, I put a 4% growth rate in
Okay.
here. Yes.
What going on with the health insurance? Is it just going up or whatever?
Well, no, so when the health insurance for the here, so yeah, I noticed that's really high. So we cover 100% of the health insurance. When
Right.
an employee comes on, they could ask for a family plan, or they
Okay.
could be on a single plan. There's a big cost difference between that.
Okay.
So we have
But you
two,
conservatively consider family
Hmm?
in the budget, right?
yes, so we have 2.5 positions that are vacant for sanitation. So those 2.5 positions, I consider that they're gonna go with the family plan.
Okay.
But you can also look at the turnover, where when we budgeted probably at the beginning of FY 25, there might have been an employee that was single, and then we hired somebody else because they left or vacation, and that person went to family plan. Because even if you look at the cost to date, I don't think we're gonna be over budget based on our current personnel here. And then of course, the salaries go up because we have the 2.5, or the 2 positions in here. And then of course, the land bill fees. The other enterprise funds look a lot better than this.
Can we go to either water or sewer so that we can
Sure. All
ask questions?
Okay.
Oh,
right, so we're down.
mhm.
Which one you going to first? It's water, sewer different, right?
Sewer first.
Sewer.
I go in the number of their sewer's the next number in the accounting chart.
Ah,
Yeah, I always found the number of our account. Sorry.
That makes sense, tone account.
I'm sorry, which one you,
Sewer,
sewer first, okay,
sewer 340, water's 350.
okay.
But it seems like backwards to me because you have to use the water first for it to be treated through the sewer. So it seems like backwards to me, but that's how the count chart is.
Well, super starts with an S, folks.
There you go.
That's good.
Okay. So, there's two parts to the sewer fund. There's the collections and conveyance, and then there's the wastewater treatment plant. In the collections and conveyance, that is where our pump stations are and pipes and stuff like that. So overall, we are changing how we're recording some of this activity. Before we had two types of activities. One is general operations, the other one was maintenance. But because we have actual maintenance account strings, we decided we're not going to use the maintenance activity anymore and keep all the maintenance in the maintenance account string that we have under operations. There's GIS that went up 25,000. All these bonds, payments that you see, that's all paid by the major facility fees. They were for upgrades for different areas, pump stations. The overall budget is going up 2%, 44,000 in the collections and conveyance. Wastewater treatment plant.
I'm sorry, back on the collection and conveyance. Since Pine Grove is still under construction, 2% of good enough growth? How are we taking into account the growth on the northeast sector?
I'm trying to see if there's anything in here that would account for that. And electricity I increased. I don't know if that particular one accounts for that. I don't see anything in contract service that would account for that growth. And I don't even know how, and maybe Kirk can explain how growth would affect the.
The pump station is already built. It's the Willow Lane pump station, so that's built.
So that would have been
it-
supporting the growth.
Yes, and well, there needs to be more work done there, but they're paying for that. That doesn't come out of our budget. So there's currently 2 pumps there. They're gonna be putting in a 3rd pump.
So it
And all
might
the
be in
controls and
the
stuff.
wrong category here, but as houses are built and people move in, flow through that pump station will increase.
Correct.
And is that accounted for on this page or a different page?
No, well, if you're looking at the activity for maintenance and repairs, that would probably be on this page, but it would depend on if that pump station would need is fairly new, right?
Yeah.
It is, but the cost of the cleaning it is going up.
Oh,
And
yeah, that did go.
that went
like,
up
what,
this 20,
15,000?
I think it was like 20,000 from last year.
Okay, 20,000.
That's a new station
Yeah, so we,
going into.
yeah, going in the Pine Grove, yeah. Well, it was built in 2010-ish, 11, something, 12, something like that, yeah.
They only have one pump station?
It's a bit,
It's huge.
that good, so the building looks like a little barn.
Yeah.
It goes 4 stories down. So
Oh.
it's big.
It is,
Parks Run, I think it's got 2.
it is a big baby.
Yeah, yeah, it's big.
We have nothing else around here like it, do we? I mean, here.
No, we don't have anything like that in town.
Yeah.
It's just that, yeah, it's,
So it's the one right there at Willow and 6?
mhm,
Okay.
yep, looks like a little barn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I increased electricity a little bit last year's. like 20,000, 21,000. I'm budgeting at 23. And then maintenance and repairs, we really don't know what pump stations are gonna be repaired or need. So we budgeted all under one line item of maintenance and repair other, and we budget at 50,000. So,
And sorry, I know you wanted to go to wastewater, but on your debt service, you show SunTrust 00. Is that a loan that's been paid off?
yes,
And can therefore be removed from the list?
it could,
Okay.
yeah. Yep. Anything else with collection and conveyance?
So as part of the asset study that you're doing, do you plan, I guess, in future years to be able to allocate directly to specific pump stations and things like that?
Probably not.
Okay.
That's more of a capital.
Yeah, I mean, we are working on to do a full assessment of all our capital. That's gonna take some time because we really don't have anything. We're starting from pretty much what finance has kept in their asset module.
So the 90K you save on that, not doing that consulting, maybe can go to increasing your staff or asset management.
Well, we have an asset manager. It's just getting started on
Give
something
that
that's
person a
never
lot to do, right?
been done before. The other thing is that we do track the costs of each individual pump station. So each individual pump station has an activity code that we do track the maintenance and repair on, the electricity on. And for budgeting, we typically, for the electricity, we just threw it under one pump station. But this year I went ahead and evaluated all the electricity accounts and did a evaluation on all of them so that I put an actual amount in there for those. But the maintenance and repair is one that you don't know which one's gonna need that throughout the year. But it does, if a Trump pump station needs to be repaired, that expense actually goes to that pump station. Anything else with collection and conveyance?
Well, in the notes, there's something about a La Plata Road pump station, $2 million. What's that?
That might be an old note, because I had everybody start putting things over in the color-coded categories.
Did you say
Which-
La Plata Road?
488 is La Plata Road.
Why would the town have a pump station on 488?
It wasn't familiar to me where it was, but
Some of these notes are pretty old.
are they?
Nobody seems to update them.
Okay, and maybe I'm pulling this not from your updated one.
I added.
Yeah, well, as I gone through these,
That's
some of
good
them I got rid of, but
Okay.
others I didn't quite see.
Well, I think I picked it up when I first looking at the original enterprise fund you sent us, not this one.
Well,
that you
the only
just-
thing I updated with these are the fact that I did the overhead costs that the general fund supports the enterprise funds and the account maintenance fees. That's the only thing I really updated on these ones.
Okay,
Because it does affect the rate estimate. But really what you want to look at is the notes that they have over on the contracted services tabs and stuff like that. That
Okay.
tell you what each of these services that they're requesting, what they're for.
it says imputed 2 million, added to 2 million to worksheet.
Yeah, ignore those.
Okay,
Those notes should be if they don't have it on the worksheet or there's a number in there.
okay.
I didn't catch every one of them.
As a matter of fact, that's on the telephone. Now that I look at it,
I like it.
for that workstation, I mean, the pump station.
All right. Anything else?
What tab are you right on right now?
Functions and conveyance.
Okay, yeah.
Everything with that. We'll go to wastewater treatment plant. So with the wastewater treatment plant. Let's see where we're at. there really is no increase of $1,114 increase. So they've broken out. There's the GIS mapping updates that are 45,000. There's, I'm not sure what that is.
SCADA.
SCADA?
Yeah, it's what runs the whole entire plant.
Okay. Then engineering services through Macron. And that's for general operations. That's not related to any capital project, right?
Correct.
Consulting services, we have the remaining balance for the rate study because they're still working on it.
Did you ask if you could get us a copy of that?
I did, and because the mayor informed me, because the council asked for a copy and they don't want to give the council until it's complete. They don't want to give it up to the finance committee until they get it to the council.
So can we get it the same time the council
Sure.
does? That'd be great.
Will that be the current council or the new council?
Depends on where we're at. I have not been as pushy to get this done because I want to try to get some better understanding of really what's our long-term capital replacement, because what they got was kind of just a list of new capital and that's it. And to do a study without looking at what we really need on the long term, I kind of don't want them to give us a number that could change. And we just spent $65,000 on a study.
You're gonna have a new, not a really new council, aren't you?
Yeah, I think there's only 2 council members that are rerunning.
Well, actually, the mayor and
Yeah, I think it's the mayor and
then the first
and
district.
Winkler,
Yep.
and everyone else is.
So there's 2 Winklers running, so the current council, Winkler is running against the mayor? Or
No.
rerunning for his own?
No. He's running for his
Okay.
seat. And the other Winkler is running for mayor.
So there could be as many as 2 returning council persons.
That'd be the most, right, the mayor and the first district.
Yep.
Oh, for Ward 1.
There's disposal for the waste, solid waste from the press, which is a recurring thing, the landfill for, the wastewater treatment disposal, the, groundskeeping maintenance contract. The first 2 make up the most of the contract services for that. Then we have the trainings that they have listed here for their personnel. So are there any questions? This budget isn't increasing really at all.
This is a minor thing, but love Bill Ekman to death. He's still on here as
In case we need to pay him for services, I think right now he's not charging us. Is that right?
Yeah, he hasn't charged us whenever we've
But I
called them.
put it
but
there in case.
It was, I think, 40,000 budgeted
Yeah.
last year, so we just reduced it
Mhm.
for this year.
Yeah.
I want to be Bill when I grow up. So.
Yes, not the truth.
So you split the rate study between water and sewer,
Yes.
so
Because
16
that's the
each.
majority of what it is. They are doing a rate study for all the enterprise funds, but the majority of the work is between the water and the sewer. I mean, there's not much with sanitation. They're looking at the growth and the services. The only assets we have there is trash trucks, where the waste, the sewer and the water, there's a lot more. Possibly could even put that in some into stormwater as well, because there is some stormwater, but right now I have it split between water and sewer. Yeah. So are there any questions with the wastewater treatment plant? We're doing the same thing as we're doing with collection and conveyance, that activity code for maintenance. We're not going to use it anymore. We're going to put everything in 01, but because we have account strings for repair and maintenance.
On your travel detail tab, you have projections going up, but there's no growth, no projections. So I like the idea of the projections going out several years, but what's the logic there?
Mainly to see what type of trainings they need and to assume that they're gonna continue those trainings. So if there could be more of, rotation because like, Perka said, there's a lot of turnover once they get their licenses and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So putting those through training.
Yeah, and so I would expect to see those numbers larger. So it's good at least we're thinking about it going forward, but they're, except for some reason, fiscal year 30 is lower. I don't understand that.
I think they just forgot to put the 6860
Yeah,
for the registration. So you use MES for all of your testing
Uh-huh.
and everything down there? So you don't have a lab on site?
We do have a lab on site for process testing,
Okay.
but the actual stuff that we report to the state,
Those
MES collects, and well, they come to the plant, collect the samples, and then we send out to a certified lab.
So I start with the budget amounts. I take out the debt because the debt is supported by the major facility fees. Then I remove like the late fees and stuff like that that can help reduce the administration fee, connection fees and stuff like that that will help reduce the maintenance fee. And of course, that's for, so there's two fees. There's the late fee when they pay the bill late, and then there's the connection fee if when they haven't paid their bill at all and the water gets disconnected. This is the estimate of the interest based on our current fund balance in this fund. Again, I did 3% for the first half of the fiscal year and 2.5% rate of return for the second half of the fiscal year.
Where are you?
Rate calculation.
Yeah, rate calc.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's the next tab from,
So you're planning on putting the rates up next year?
No, when I'm talking about the interest, what we expect to the rate of return on the funds that we have in investments. I base that on the amount that's in the fund balance for that fund.
Okay.
Then we have the amount that we need covered by rates, the account maintenance fee, that will offset that rate. So the amount that we have to have total covered is 4.3 million. So if I looked at how much water we've used in the first quarter or first half of the fiscal year. And that's what I kind of use as the basis of how much we're gonna have used for the rest of the year. And I believe I put a 4%. No, I just put that amount in there. So I didn't even do an increase on this. I didn't do any increase as consumption will increase. I'm assuming that our consumption would be the same in the first half of this fiscal year and it will continue on. And part of that, I didn't bother doing the increase. Make sure I just didn't do it. I just want to make sure I didn't do that. No, I didn't. So even without doing an increase in consumption, I based the rates as same consumption, same rates, and we're still coming in a surplus of 127,000. So without doing that, I would recommend just doing a 3% increase and leaving it at that so that we have a low increase year over year instead of not increasing it and then have to do a larger increase.
So what is you've seen the rate study, right?
Yes.
What is their recommendation?
3%
Their
over the next 5 years.
Okay.
They recommend that for
so you're following
all.
that recommendation.
yes.
So because that's their preliminary, because it's only a draft.
Yeah.
That's what I would.
Well, they're getting feedback from you now, right? On it, and then they'll make some
Yeah.
adjustments with what you say.
Yeah. Questions regarding the sewer?
Is there a list of all of the increases that are coming out of this budget? Just with that on it?
I can do that.
I'd be really interested in seeing, because we've got the taxes going up.
Well, the tax rate would, I don't believe.
I
we
know.
do.
I
don't believe we're gonna do a tax rate increase. That was done last for FY 25. So. for
yeah,
us
so
to do
people
a
are gonna see it for
rate-
the first time this year, though.
No, they would have.
They've seen it already. We've seen it already.
July.
Okay, so that's not gonna go up.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see what we've
Okay.
got.
So yeah, I will actually, I'm gonna be working on the, fee schedule. And I will
Mhm.
provide you with the fee.
A new one of those. They're all increasing to the fees on your fee schedule.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that and anything that we're increasing in any of the funds, any increases, if there was an increase of sanitation, if there's an increase on the
It would be a
water.
fee increase on our, fee schedule.
So all, that's where you feed everything to, is into there. Okay.
Yeah, well, see, this is what we do these worksheets to find out how much do we need to increase our fee to cover our costs. And we've always done it where, okay, this is what our cost this year, so this is what we need to increase next year. I'm hoping with the study has been completed, that we can say, even if say next year, it shows that we need to increase our fees 5%, we can only do that, we only have to do that 3%, because the year after, it should help
You've already
mitigate
done
that.
it.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping comes out of this study. Because a 3% increase year over year is much better than the 8 and 10% that we've been doing.
And does the rate study say anything about minimal amounts in the fund balances? Does it address any of that?
I don't recall it did.
Because
But
we
I
did
think-
start a conversation about
Yeah,
that last
we
time.
definitely need to make sure there's amounts to cover the operating, because we don't have a contingency or rainy day fund
Mhm.
in any of the enterprise funds, it's only in the general fund. But even the general funds need to be increased a lot more than what it is now. It has not increased for over 10 years,
Mhm.
and our budget almost doubled since then.
But do we have other reserves that
We
can
have other
trans,
reserves.
that can be?
And right now, our unassigned fund balance is very healthy. But before we start spending it down on the capital assets, and believe me,
Let's
there's.
get it locked up a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So this probably isn't the right time to bring it up, so I put it in your mind.
Mhm.
How is it decided how those funds are invested?
we have a very restricted investment policy. So right now I can only invest in CDs, treasuries, anything that's FIDs, whatever.
No equity.
FDIC.
No
FDIC.
Little or no equities,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
So, and right now,
So there is an investment strategy policy.
there's an investment policy right now. So typically, for a while, I was just doing a laddered investment policy. Now I'm trying to push out the CDs to capture the higher rates, because right now I'm getting them still like at 1.5% for 2 years. So I'm trying to capture those.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So there's about 9 million that I actually go in and look for the CDs and look at the rates and the term. I can only go out 2 years, so I can't go further out than that. So I've been selecting those 2-year terms at the 4.5%.
So following Karen's lead, could we see a copy of the investment strategy policy?
Well, there's an investment policy. I sent it to you guys, I think the first or
Oh,
second
we have
meeting.
that already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very.
But it's not, it will not have a strategy in
No,
it.
No, that's.
It's
really
strictly
the-
what she's
Yeah.
restricted to doing.
The strategy is really left to me, which I've changed because I know the rates are going down. But really, I'm only I'm making manual investments of about 9 million. The rest is in, the bank has that, I wouldn't call it a sweep fund, but we have a certain amount that we have to keep in the bank account, and then the rest of it gets invested, but it's 0.05 basis points above the MELGIP. So which is the government investment pool. We have about, I want to say 5 million in MELGIP, and then about 35 million with the bank. Something. We have almost, with all accounts, with all of our investments, it's about 50 million. through all funds.
Excellent.
There any concerns with the sewer fund?
I think it's conservative. I think it's great. You know, that we're doing a little bit increases as opposed to one shot,
Yeah.
a shock, shock prevention
Well, I think
strategy.
part of the, I think what's also helping is the fact that we're actually looking and evaluating the budget instead of just getting a number from the departments, actually having them list out these other contracts that we're gonna need to provide the services. But of course, there's things that you can't predict for, like the repair and maintenance. I mean, that's, you have to put a contingency in there.
Right, sure.
That's not going to be as much because of all the money we're investing into the capital improvement projects. So we're, like I said, we have a bunch of aging infrastructure, and the more we replace that, the less we need for maintenance and repairs.
That's true.
So how is the town planning on communicating all the, to the point that was made earlier, tax increase last year, rate increases that are gonna continue to increase annually, which I agree is better to do it rolling versus, all at once.
Yeah, so we actually put out an announcement in the paper and post on our website. I want to say at least 10 days before we have the meeting for public comment and review of the fees. So the fee schedule goes up for a reading, then it goes for public comment, and then it gets approved. And that's been the routine year over year.
I guess where I'm going with it is if property taxes are going up, fees are going up, you would expect to see some benefit to the citizens that coincides with that, right? So is there any way to tie it to some sort of benefit that people are getting from living in this community?
We have not done that, and that's one of the steps with the justification of the expenses. Our first step was, we are no longer accepting a number in a box. If it's over 5,000, I want you to list out the services. Now, when I did put out the budget manual, it did ask for that justification. But being that this was so new, just getting that list, I didn't want to make it too complicated for people. So as we refine this budget process, that is something I would like to see of the cost and the benefit.
Yeah, because I think people are gonna start really looking at that, especially as, housing prices keep going up here now. And personally, I mean, the property taxes are high here, even as compared to locations in Northern Virginia. And the amenities are pretty low.
I need to send you, so I do have, I get a report from the state that gives me the listing of each community
Okay.
and the property tax rate. I'll send you guys that. I have that.
But we do get in the newsletter, we do get the quality of the water, correct? Compared
Yeah.
to.
Yeah,
I think
And
that's-
last I saw it was,
yeah, it is.
last I saw it was, we're in good shape, I thought. Okay.
And what's the status of the water appropriations and the county and later? Is that still sitting in limbo?
It's the 64,000.
No.
Question.
I've not, we probably know as much as you.
Okay.
Whatever you heard last is probably what we heard last.
I'm starting to see people making comments about that out.
This has been something that has been
A lot of
ongoing
them.
for a very, very long time.
At least 10 years.
Yeah, we've known that it was gonna happen. And it's just like, now we need it to happen, but it's almost like we kind of just passed over it year over year.
Well, we're at a point now where you might begin hearing more vocal from people like Horton, because I know that the planning department had been keeping pretty good records about, this is our water supply, you add this section in the
Mhm.
development, you no longer have this is how much water supply you have. And you can see that's gonna get to a point where they're gonna turn down permits.
Right now, we're not accepting any applications, only approved developments. We're accepting applications. There are no more applications for anything
Okay,
else.
so I want to make sure I understand that. Let's use Horton as an example. They're managing Pine Grove.
Mhm.
They have a full, I'll just say plan for the whole section. Are they still allowed to submit for building in a new section within that?
If it's
Overall?
approved. And I just got the list of what's approved from the planning, because I asked about that because my concern was how much should I project real property tax to be if we're not accepting any more applications? I don't know if I should
Perfect.
continue that 4%. So I wanted to know, well, how many developments will actually be approved? So she did send me a list. I just haven't, she sent it to me this morning, so I haven't looked at it.
So had the appropriations already been given to Horton for that entire development already? Have They already
Not,
been
not the
done?
entire development, only.
So
the
he could
approved
come
area.
to a stop then?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's-
okay, and that's what you're.
They have
Mhm.
slowed down so that they don't have to come to a stop, but it will be,
yeah. But if I'm a developer and I wanted to build these 3,000 plus houses, I wouldn't want water appropriation to stop me.
Mhm.
That's what I'm envisioning is gonna come to a head. So right now, it's the state, the county, and the town have been involved in this. Sooner or later, people who want to use this property that needs water are gonna have to speak up and help in that battle.
Yeah, probably.
Well, I think also, and we've talked about this before, if the recommendations implemented in terms of hiring an attorney that is in the area that can physically be present and puts pressure that specializes in that, I think that would be extremely helpful as well.
Do we know what the hurdle is in getting to an agreement? Is it at the state? Is it at the county? Is it at the town?
I really can't comment on that. I don't know how much you know, but I have not been in that loop. It's more of a management. And I'm just waiting for them to provide me the information.
And then we're saying we're stopping or we're not approving any more permits. Is that just residential permits or is that commercial permits as well?
that's everything.
That's everything.
We have no more water appropriations.
Yeah, the town, the planning department has a single number of water supply available. And so if a commercial property comes in, expects this much water, and we approve it, then that'll get off. So now you have a less amount still available.
It's not good though. We want the commercial.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
now, because it sticks you in the same predicament that you're in, where you're
Yeah.
relying on property taxes and that'll continue to, go up without it being balanced with commercialization.
Yeah.
Is the state in the middle of this as well? NPE, are they all?
They don't want.
I think the state's kind of said it's between the town and the county.
So they pushed it back down here and said it needs to be resolved at this level.
Well, they are involved because they're limiting what we can draw from the aquifer. That's
For
what
the
they're
entire
involved.
county.
Right.
And
that's-
they've said that we have to figure out between the county and the town,
Yeah.
who's gonna get what, I guess.
Washington Water is involved in it too.
They're in the middle of that as well.
Have we ever looked at or talked about like establishing some sort of like reservoir or anything like that?
I don't think the reservoir, there was talk, and I think this was just talk about doing a line down to, with the river.
Down at the bridge, I'd
Yeah.
love to do that. There's a water plant,
Yeah.
at the old power plant.
Yeah,
You could pull surface
there
water
was
from the
talk
river.
about that.
I'd love to do that, but
I know some towns have used like mining sites that aren't active anymore to establish reservoirs.
I don't think the issue's not the reservoirs. That's it, because we have tons of storage in town. We have, all the water towers in town. We can store a ton of water in town. Problem is how much we can pump a day. And so we're right at pretty much at the limit in terms of appropriations when it comes to how much we can pump a day.
You've got the ability to pump it, but you
Oh,
just not
I've
allowed
got the ability to pump a lot more water than what we're.
than
allowed
you
to.
do.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah, we have the infrastructure in place to
right.
pump and store a lot more water.
Yeah.
It's just we're not allowed to.
So what happens when someone wants to sell a piece of land? that doesn't already have a house on it. There's no, and it's inside the town. There's no water appropriation.
It doesn't come up until they want to improve that property.
But say they were selling it for improvement, they wouldn't be able to get an appropriation from what we're hearing.
Correct.
Right,
That's pretty bad.
yeah. Yeah, I can tell you, this, we were apparently not very well, but working on this probably 8 years ago when I was on the council, or however many years ago it was.
Mr. Ekman and Bobby made many trips to Annapolis working on this.
Yeah.
And I was told that the state said the water would be there when we needed it, and now
Yeah.
the state says, "No, y'all figured it out."
So who are we working with at Charles County?
I don't know.
No idea.
You'd have to ask I think it's the mayor and Jay
Yeah.
are dealing with that.
Management has taken this
Yeah.
on.
Are they reporting out on it?
I have not received any reports.
The-
It's a question that comes up and the answer is always, we're still working.
I haven't heard anything
Yeah.
change
Yeah.
recently.
Yeah, we're still working on it.
Yep.
We're still approving permits. Or
Well,
Those were already
yeah,
approved.
there's
Yeah.
approved application. So there's areas. What was it? I'm trying to think of her terminologies. The development that has been approved can submit for a permit, but if they have not been approved, they can't submit for a permit.
okay, so that's a significant step in this overall many years process.
Mm-hmm.
A new developer can't expect to get a water appropriation.
Yeah, if a developer came in today, there wouldn't be any.
So that impacts the hub that they were talking
Yeah.
about. That's why we haven't heard anything about that
Thank
anymore.
God.
I know.
There are some positive,
And
Thanks.
steeplechase too, probably,
uh,
and probably steeplechase.
hmm.
I don't know if that falls under already approved. So,
I don't.
Stagecoach is already approved.
Stagecoaches.
I mean, that's what I meant. I meant
Yeah, Yeah, Stagecoach is guaranteed their water.
they are. Okay, so that's the level. Hub might have some guarantees on that.
You know,
But they just came in.
But
I mean, when were they approved?
it's been a while.
Yeah, Hub's
It's
been
been
around
a
a long
while
time.
since but I haven't seen any activity come through for them either. I mean, there's a few things that come in, that the attorneys reviewed only because I see the name on there on the bill, but there's not much activity that comes through on that.
where is that supposed to be? Where's that plan?
That's northwest up by the college. It would probably border.
Oh, yeah, I haven't heard anything about that.
Across from Legion Field on up to Rosewick Road.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah.
It's
So
been a few years since.
Has it
like-
been that long?
Yeah, I see the project set up and there's really no activity to that project.
All right.
Any more?
I think
Question?
that was a valuable diversion. Thank you.
Oh, is there anything more that we need to talk about the sewer? I mean, as far as the budget is concerned, I mean, what we're charging now, it's gonna estimatedly, it's gonna cover it. I just would recommend us increasing the fees just so that we can be in a position having to do that later. And even if it's, like I said, maybe it's 5% increase that we need next year, we would have reserves to say, hey, we really didn't need this money. We have this fund balance that transferred over because we did this increase that could basically subsidize that.
Yeah, I'm really interested in seeing all the different increases that are looking to be
Well,
implemented for FY 26.
So I know Plan Check said none of their fees are increasing. So those are probably gonna say, and that's the majority of the fee schedule is the Plan Check fees. Then we have the enterprise fund fees, which my goal is to keep everything at 3% and no more than that. Sanitation is the only one that I'm concerned about, but we're exploring how we can help mitigate that by charging for an extra can. Is see what the effects are on that. Water, sewer, and stormwater, a 3% is gonna cover our estimated expenses. Code enforcement, unless they want to increase any of the fees. I know their second notice is at a max allowed by the state. I'm not sure about their first notice, if that one is. So I don't anticipate there being a lot of increases in our fees this year. I haven't finished the evaluation for the farmer's market, but I don't anticipate, we did I believe like 11% increase last year, so I don't believe there's gonna be much of an increase this year. Other
That's
than
the fee that the vendor pays.
that, yes, yeah,
Rent the space.
yep. Other than maybe the regular fees that we charge for miscellaneous thing, having a 3% increase, there's not gonna be a lot that will increase. You want to move on to water?
Mm-hmm. Eric, thanks for hanging in there with us.
Well, no problem.
He's better at answering some of these questions. Sometimes they just give you a vague answer. So it's good that they come in. All right, water. So water, there's two departments in the water. That's the distribution and the production and storage. So the distribution, see what they have. So there's their Syntrex system. That's what tracks the water usage, the day-to-day water usage. There's their work order system, which is divided amongst the enterprise funds. Of course, there's the utility payment portal, and then there's the Water Smart, which is where the resident can go on and track their water usage.
So why are they two separate? Because originally the Water Smart, you could also make your payment there. It seems like you have two separate
Yeah,
things
so-
going on there.
So there's the payment portal. Even through Water Smart, you wouldn't be able to make the payment. You click it, it brings you to another portal.
Okay.
But we're having an issue with the data that's saying this is the amount that your bill is in Water Smart. There's a data connection, and no IT person, we've had 3 since this has been an issue, has been able to figure out why the data is not updating with the correct amount. It keeps bringing the old file over, and nobody can figure out,
So that's why the data's so old.
yes,
Okay.
on the payment. Now your water usage should be up to date.
It
now.
is. It is. It's just,
It's the payment
Stay
that's-
behind.
yeah.
that it's still bringing over the same file over and over and over. And none of our IT, we've had about 3 of them. Yeah, 3 of them have not figured out where to update that file so it brings over the correct information. But you can still click on that and it'll bring you to the page where you can make the payment, which you would have to anyways, because you can't make the payment through Water Smart. Water Smart is more of tracking your water usage. It's good for residents because they can see if their water usage spikes, and they can put alerts on there if it reaches a certain amount to help reduce the bill, because we do bill based on what goes through the meter, regardless if it's a leak or not.
Right, yeah.
Found
That is a good thing, having an alert.
Yeah. So there's that, there's, I guess, plan review and engineering from Macron, the rate study. They are planning to, okay, they're not doing it this year. They're gonna be, in future years, they're gonna do hydrant painting, but they are doing inspections that they intend to, I guess, do several 250 units every other year, something like that.
We do like a third of the fire hydrants every year, so.
There's the lead pipe. Is that part of the replacement? Those lead replacement?
No,
pipes?
that's just normal lead and copper sampling that
Oh,
we're
okay.
required by state to do, but you can expect to see cost increase with anything dealing with lead to go up over the next 10 years.
Yeah. So we are required to replace all the lead piping in the town.
So is there a premium on you pull out a lead pipe, that now is waste? There's a premium on that because it's lead?
What do you mean a
I mean,
premium?
disposing of it?
Yeah, when you're disposing of it, do you have to pay,
Uh,
can it go right to the landfill or?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
I think right now
We-
they're trying to see where the lead pipes
Yeah,
are.
it's mostly an inventory right now. And the thing is, there's not a whole lot in the town of La Plata, but the way that the program is set up is that if we don't know exactly what it is, it's considered lead.
Yeah.
So,
Be conservative.
yeah.
There's chemicals for the water and then the hydrant meters, I'm guessing this is for ours, the replacements of those miscellaneous tools. So these other amounts that are being in here for meters, those are new meters for new buildings. That's the estimate that we think that we're gonna need for new residents. Those are supported by fees, so we get reimbursed for those costs. So there's like, what? There's 118,000 in the budget that's gonna be reimbursed by fees specifically just for that purpose. Hydrant repairs. And then the GIS mapping. There's some training in here, there's other equipment. That's for. These are meter replacements, so this other equipment, these are meter replacements that is because the meter isn't working or is old, that we don't get reimbursed for. And it looks like they're replacing collectors to collect the data so that we can pull those meter readings for billing.
We're still doing remote
Reading.
collection readings.
Yes.
How good is that working now?
It's gotten better from my understanding, but there's still a percentage that has to go.
That
out
has to
and
be manually
read,
read,
and
yeah.
if they can't be read, then we do an estimate. And if there's a time that, and we've had residents call about, well, my bill's higher than normal. And then we'll have to go out and do a manual reading and an adjustment based on the manual reading. There is debt service again, that is covered by the major facility fee. So there is an increase of 4% in this budget overall. Which is, looks like the meter replacement, because it's in the small capital, so it looks like this meter replacement is the driver of that increase. Is there any questions regarding the?
It's just an education thing. I might be jumping ahead. I'm in contractors and supplies.
Hmm.
Under tools and equipment, hydrant meters.
I believe those are the meters that go on our hydrant.
Yes.
So we're measuring the water that goes through a hydrant. Is that water, is that
So say
paid for by the town? I mean,
so a landscaper wants to go water the lawn, and so they'll get one of these meters from us. They hook it to the hydrant, so then we can charge them for the water that they use.
okay.
We don't charge the meter, they make a deposit
Yeah.
and they're supposed to return the meter.
Gotcha. Okay. But then it goes to they end up paying that water use.
Yeah, they pay for the
Right.
water
That
that
allows
they
us
use.
to
Yep.
measure that. Okay.
That explains why you have very low unaccounted for water then in the town. Because when I looked that up, it seemed like the numbers were really low,
So
unaccounted water.
there's always some unaccounted water.
There's always, yeah, there's
Always
always.
explain
Yeah,
why.
but it's not high. It's the percentage is not
Low.
high. It's a
That's
low.
important for
Yeah.
the other
Yeah.
earlier discussion.
Yeah, exactly.
Distribution.
So you got 50,000 for consultant for town county water arrangement.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. We've got to come to some type of agreement.
Yep.
And I don't know who put that number in, but I didn't. So I'm assuming they did some research because, yeah, we do need some type of agreement that needs to come up.
Does that only affect the town or is it
I would assume
the entirety of La Plata?
the town, I
Just
would
the town.
assume this would be just for the town, the agreement that town and county would make. Because there is, so in the project reserve, there is a interconnection between the county and the town. And I want to say $1 million, but I could be wrong. Do you recall that?
I don't know
It's
the
Tillman
amount.
Lake or something?
Yeah,
An interconnection.
Yep.
And so we do have those funds reserved to build that connection to get the water that we need for the residents.
Is the county also frozen on their water appropriations?
I
just us.
think that's part of the thing is that they have to buy water from WSSC,
Yeah.
and so because
they're in the
then
same situation now.
But we can't get it from WSSC except through the county, right?
Correct.
That's what the interconnection's for.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
basically the county would buy the water at the northern part of the county, and then we would buy it down
Right,
here.
from them.
Yeah. And that was one of the things before is they wanted to sell all the water to us at those rates, and there was back and forth with that, and
I think that's part of the problem is that
Yeah.
they want to charge us the higher rate than actually a prorated rate based on usage.
Yeah.
If that came up.
it's in everybody's benefit to work something out. Because I know there's places around here that the county would like to tie in to our water. And then we would, sell water and back and forth between each other, but
But they're not struggling because they have access to WSSC's.
Correct.
water. We're shut down.
Right.
Yeah.
They
That
clearly
gives them
have
the edge.
And yeah, that's part of the storage and production and storage. So
Well,
Yes.
well, earlier, Kirk, you had mentioned the water towers. They can't really be considered a water storage that you can tap off of because they're providing our pressure, right?
I mean, that's what provides water to the town. It's just storage. That's all the towers are. They provide the pressure and storage.
I think what he's saying is we've got a lot more out there than we're allowed to.
Yes, yeah, we have a lot more storage capacity than we're allowed to pump. And I have the ability to pump a lot more than we're allowed to pump too. Because we have
Okay.
5 wells throughout town.
So I'm hearing from you, this water allocation issue is not as serious a concern as some of us might think.
well,
It's serious because we need, if we want to continue growth in the town, we need more water.
Okay, we're on the same page.
Yeah.
it's an allocation. We have plenty of water. It's
Yeah.
just we are only allowed a certain amount.
Yes. The state only allows us to draw so much water from aquifers. Yeah. And I think years ago, they did look into Tillman Lake as a possible water source, but it was so little that it wasn't worth it. I think it's only like 100 gallons. a
That was the
day.
purpose of it, if I remember correctly.
Originally, yeah, it
I
was
don't know how
providing-
many years ago it was.
for the army when they were there. or
Yeah.
whatever. And I think they did do a study on that, but I think it's like not even really. worth
Right.
it. I mean,
Matter of fact, it was a pump building or something used to be out there.
there used to be, yeah.
Yeah.
Production and storage. There's a slight increase, 2.83%, 15,000. For the rate calculation, again, I did not, make sure I did not increase based on growth on this rate calculation. And it's with the current budget and the current rates and, usage, we are anticipating 106,000 surplus within water.
I think the no rate strategy, no increase rate strategy is good.
My only concern is if we don't do it now, the 3%, that it might be an issue later.
You're including that for water as well as sewer,
3% for everything.
everything.
Yeah, 3%, water, sewer, even sanitation, we just need to figure out how we can mitigate that cost, because sanitation's really the one I'm worried about. Based on the budget.
But
Yeah.
we have growth, right?
The sanitation, I did include the growth.
Oh, you did include.
Mhm. Yeah, I did. Yeah, these I didn't, because I did a 4% growth for sanitation, but these I'm just looking at my calculation to make sure I didn't, and it. Sure I didn't. No, I didn't. I didn't include a growth calculation in here. Yeah. If we did a 3% increase, it would be $5 per 100, or per 1,000 gallons to 15,000, and then 575, or up to 100, and then back down to 5.
Yeah.
It just feels like those water, sewer, and all of that just seem to always be going up.
Mhm.
Oh, it's,
So last
It's
year I
never
think
ending.
8%, and the year before that, I think it was 10%.
Mhm.
And that's why I'm hesitant to increase sanitation, because we just did a 20% last year.
Well, and the town is still growing.
Mhm.
You need to add people, workers to manage that.
Yeah.
And the workers want cost of living increases. I don't know how you cannot.
Mhm.
And so
Well,
I think what you're proposing is a steady increase
Mhm.
like cost of living,
yeah.
rather than having these
Mhm.
Peaks.
ups and then nothing and then up.
Mhm.
I know when I worked in Calvert County, that was the thing where they never increased rates and then it would just be a huge spike and people did not like that at all.
Yeah, but then the other thing, you're also making it, you're not providing, I guess, the same. So if you don't increase it now, then the residents don't have to pay, and then new residents come, or people, what's the word? You're not, making it equitable, I guess, because now you're saying, well, because we underestimated the cost 3 years in a row, now we're charging increased rate, and now whoever's living there now has to pay because we didn't increase the rate when we should have.
So the value of you speaking with the departments to get more detailed information on budget inputs over the long term, if you continue that, should at least put some kind of a boundary about unexpected peaks and valleys.
Yeah, I think that's something that Randy and I talk about is, okay, here's your baseline. If you're gonna go above your baseline or something's happening, to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But because we've never really evaluated how the budgets were built, that we don't have any really good baseline. That's why I'm hoping this budget becomes our baseline and then we move forward.
And we have a fund balance in this one.
Yeah, I put the fund balance down there on all of them, just so that I know what our fund balance is. So right now, our water fund balance, this is as of the end of FY 24, is 1.8 million for the water fund. Again, this fund balance, the idea is to use it to repair or replacing the infrastructure, not for necessarily supporting operating costs.
Wasn't one of the things that we were talking about was figuring out getting a number for a fund balance for these different things and
And that's
And
my
making that
focus
as
with
a
the asset
recommendation.
management,
Okay,
is
so
to
we're
get
waiting for
that,
that.
get our assets assessed and know when
And
we're gonna
then-
need to replace or when we expect it, so that we know how much we're gonna need to fund for that replacement. And not just new assets, because right now we do have a capital improvement plan, but all of it's new assets, whatever we want to replace, not what's our old asset, when each pump station is gonna need a major upgrade or any major repairs or replacements. I mean, I'm talking about 5 years. Eventually, I would like at least a 20 or 30-year out for the life of the asset. When we get this asset, have that plan out for the life of that asset.
Yes.
So are there any other questions regarding water?
So, having talked about sewer and water, do we know how many properties still do not have water and sewer in the town?
I
And
know there are.
are there plans to address that now?
But I think they either have a well or a septic, and
But then we have failing septic.
yeah, I don't know do you know anything about?
I know some stuff is like based on development. They're getting like Dolly Drive is being tied in once they start doing Stagecoach. Dolly, I think it's Dolly.
Dolly Drive.
Yeah, because I think there's like 8 houses there that need to be on water and sewer.
We've seen anybody to tie into our water?
I remember someone talking about that recently, but I don't know the details of all that stuff.
It isn't much. I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not much, but it's let's just pick a number. Let's say there's 10 properties. And they're all well and septic. And there's failing septic. So then there's a cost that they probably can't bear to convert to water. And some of that's been driving some, I know on 488, several years ago, there was a bunch of people wanting to annex into the town so they could get that. But it's still a cost to that property owner as well as the town.
I do recall something happening many years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago, where a property, the owner couldn't afford it and the state paid for it.
Oh,
The state paid us.
100%?
Not 100%. I believe they were responsible for like 25%, something like that. I remember it.
So there's grants available. then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I remember that because I got a check from the state and a check from the resident.
I imagine there's funds available in the Bay Restoration thing where, they replace septic tanks and stuff like that.
Yeah, they do. And I actually know they do because the county paid for my new septic to have it in, but I also have to maintain it.
Yeah.
So that was the agreement is they replace it, but I pay for the maintenance.
And that's not cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of money. A lot of that money comes to Southern Maryland because we have a lot of septic systems down here.
Anything more? So the last one is stormwater.
Head out.
Yeah. He's not a storm.
Thank you for your time, Kurt.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you guys have any questions or anything, send them to Karina and she can send them to me.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
So one of the biggest things with stormwater, we keep budgeting costs for maintenance and repairs, and the problem is they're not getting to these maintenance and repairs. So we have, our fund balance has increased year over year because we know we need to do it. We need the funds to do it. It just hasn't been done. And then we have the MS4 requirements, which requires us to have upgrade the impervious surfaces. That's a state mandate, and we have, I want to say 5 to 10 years. I'm really not familiar, but we have to have everything improved or updated for that. So part of the ARPA funds, I want to say almost 2.5 million was allocated to those improvements. But it's been slow getting those done. So there are funds in there to do those. But those are capital projects.
If the town can't do them, can they outsource some of the work?
I can talk to Melinda about that. She's our stormwater manager. Because we have a certain date that they have to be done. And it's been very slow. Sometimes I know there was one project that was selected and we started to work on it and then come to find out didn't qualify. And so we sunk I want to say like 15, 20,000. It's something that then we find out doesn't qualify to meet the requirements. But yeah, I'll bring that up to her. It's about outsourcing those. I mean, actually, we do have contractors doing them. She's just got to manage it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's probably the thing. But yeah, we do have the contractors doing the work. But she's managing. So,
We really need more though.
yeah. But it's also very expensive. I know that. And that's why, 2.5 million was allocated to that. Most of the ARPA funds were allocated to the enterprise funds. All right.
Okay, so ARPA funds started coming in 3, 4 years ago,
Mhm. Yeah,
and we're still not making any progress in
Well-
spending money. So
so what we did last year in FY '24, because we were not making head to spend the money, I proposed a reallocation of the budget to support salaries and benefits operating costs. The amounts that supported that cost, I then moved to a reserve, a project reserve, to be used for the projects that they were originally planned for. So this year we had like 500,000 left that the department said they were going to use for their stormwater. So in October, they still weren't used, so I did the same thing. I did a budget reallocation to use it for benefits, and the amounts that were originally planned for these projects are in that project reserve. So right now, I want to say there's 4.6 million in that project reserve.
so that keeps you legal with ARPA,
Correct.
with those
Yeah,
budget swaps.
Yep.
But there's an underlying problem. The department can't seem to figure out a way to get this stuff done, regardless of how you're
Yeah.
paying for it.
yeah. Yep.
Well, you're okay until you don't meet whatever deadline that
Yes.
they've established to get the work done.
Yeah.
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 So outsourcing is, we need to look into that.
But if I heard you correctly, they are
Yeah.
outsourcing.
We're not doing the work
And
internally.
we have a manager.
Mhm.
Do we need another manager? I mean, is there not enough managers? Fundamentally, if this is something that there's money to pay for,
Get a project manager for 6 months and knock it out
right?
Well,
and charge the project manager to
interesting
ARPA.
you
because
asked that because I've been saying the
You're
town needs
quicker
to.
to the chase than I.
Sorry.
I have proposed us to get a project manager because we have the Dorchester Community Center that we have had grant funding for and nothing's been done. The police station, which we have grant funding for, nothing's been done. So I have proposed that we get a project manager to take on to start these projects.
I mean,
And I
there are,
haven't gotten, and the council actually said, we don't need one. I'm like, but we have this funding or the perspective of this funding. So nobody submitted for the grants. I just did that start late last year. And they're coming in slowly. We've gotten one that we've signed the contract, but we only have 4 years to spend that money now.
Mhm.
And that's
So-
where a project manager is
Exactly.
definitely needed.
Yes, you got all these, you've got these grants. They're coming in.
And you can use the ARPA funds to pay for the project manager, right?
Exactly.
Bring them on as a 1099.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I mean, a 12 months position,
Yeah.
manage all of that. And that looks great on their resume and
we do have one project manager, but they're very specific to the grants that they secured for us. And that's for the streets and the bikeway. That's it. We still need somebody for all these other projects that we haven't. That have been sitting idle, have an idea, but nothing's been done with it.
but you have the funding.
We have the ARPA fundings for some of the projects, and then the police station and the Dorchester Community Center, they're still in process, because we've had them for 4 years, but nobody submitted for the funding. So I did that all in like October,
So
November.
you're going to get the money though,
Yes.
project
The,
manager.
the police
Wait.
station, they already have set up for us to draw down on. I just have nothing to report.
so,
So.
so what's the push? You say knock this stuff out.
Yeah.
right?
I don't know, they just said they didn't think, because the mayor brought it up. Members said that we don't need one. So,
Well, as a resident, I could say, well, then we don't need those projects. based on what they're saying, but apparently we
And that's the
do.
thing, why did we go and pursue, and we spent a lot of money on the, oh, what's their name? The solicitor, whatever they did, to go and get these funds for us, and yet we aren't even prepared to use them.
Yeah. Well, that was a common problem I felt when we went through the comprehensive plan too. There were a lot of things that were expected to be done, but there didn't seem to be any evidence of who was going to be in charge of making sure it would get done.
Interesting. So in my worksheet for the capital improvement, I specifically have a line for who's the project manager, name and title. Because I don't want them putting something in and nobody's taking on the project.
And if you're going to hire somebody to do that, notate that in there and budget it.
So there's no progress requirement on all these projects by by year one, you have to have percent moving forward.
Our capital improvement plan was bare as it can be. I'm now putting in saying, okay, these are what we're looking at, actually think about what the plan is. The other thing is there's a lot of ideas out there that they want in these, in the capital improvement plan. So if we went and did all of these ideas, we don't have the fund balance to support it. So that's the other concern is you're not prepared to do them because you haven't done the research or anything, you haven't started anything on it. But then everything that you want to do, we don't even have the funds. So that's part of when we started the capital improvement process, the capital budget. So they're supposed to get me the worksheets back by the end of this month, and then you guys would be going through the worksheets and ranking them and everything, so that we can get the capital budget. But that could be an expectation. If you don't complete it if you're expecting to do it in FY26 and you don't get it done in FY26 before it goes in FY27, you need to give us an actual plan on how you're doing it.
Okay.
But as far as stormwater, I know there's planning reviews for the soil conservation is required. We do have some litigation between Magnolia Gardens and Alpas, which hopefully will be resolved, but I'm not sure what the outcome or what any work that the town will be responsible for. Looks like we have an upgrade for a dam. Dam maintenance.
Tillman Lake.
Okay. Street sweeping. Okay, I moved that. So that's something that we do in the general fund, but I'm having the stormwater pay half because part of the street sweeping is because of the projects that they have around town.
Mhm.
So they're gonna pay half of, that's part of the overhead cost.
Street sweeping we're doing because of projects around here.
No, we do the street sweeping, but
I
it's
know.
gonna be more frequent. So stormwater's paying for the increase.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did 50%. I did 50% of the street sweeping from the streets budget
Okay.
to charge the enterprise funds.
Alright. What is the stormwater management plan review? What's that? 59,000. What's that all about? And who's doing it? It's under professional services.
Under. Yeah,
There's-
architect, engineer, planner.
Yeah. Says stormwater management plan review, engineering surface, Alphas, Magnolia or something.
Oh, the 18,000
Mhm.
for Magnolia Gardens?
I don't know. No, it's under the notes, say stormwater
Is this
management.
on the budget sheet?
It's,
It's on-
yeah, in the,
Contractors and supply,
Okay, so under,
line 14 and 15. Yeah,
okay, so the soil conservation, those are required by the state. I can get a better explanation from Melinda, but I know they are state required. The 18,000, that is for a issue between Magnolia Gardens and Alpas regarding some stormwater and we are stuck in the middle of that. So that 18,000 is an estimate of what it's gonna cost the town. Whatever outcome, we aren't sure what the outcome, I think they actually went up to talk about that earlier this week, so I'm not sure what the outcome is of that.
Okay. And that's Washington Avenue,
I don't know where it is, I just know it's Magnolia Gardens in El Paso. I have a project set up to track that cost,
okay.
but I'm not really, I'm not.
You don't know where it is.
No, I don't.
Okay. I think it's
But I can ask Melinda. to
It,
give
it's
more
not,
detail on that.
not that important, but and I've got a note here about IT services plus 45,000 in under stormwater. Just curious what that is.
That line item,
because
the only professional services.
I
There's
think it's the
there's
GIS.
the GIS
Yeah.
system. Okay,
The
yeah, that's
Oh,
trying to
okay.
map out our infrastructure, the stormwater infrastructure. We're trying to do that with all the pipes, water, sewer, and everything. I'm hoping with that information, then we can start building our asset management system to list, okay, this is where this pipe is, this, and in our asset management, we have a lot of cells that we don't use, like when the last time it was maintained, what the condition is it. So we're hoping to get that all set up and start updating our assets in there and being able, because we can run a report on, and we have an asset assessment report that would pull that information from those. So this budget, it actually decreased. Did it decrease? Yeah, it did. No, it didn't. Sorry, I'm looking at it. So the administration costs decreased, and I calculate that based on the operating costs and based on the percentage of the total operating cost for all the enterprise funds, and I have a percentage, and that's how I determine how much of the overhead cost goes to each department. So this one's increasing very slightly, $1,200,
$1,200.
$1,280. The rate, so the surplus is 167, but I did put a note in here for 150 to go to capital improvements for the MS4 projects, because right now we do not have enough between the ARPA funds that were earmarked for this and the fund balance to cover all those projects that need to be done.
MS4.
Yeah, that's the impervious surface upgrades that need to be done that don't meet the minimum or minimum standards of the state, something like that.
So that's not,
Wh-
this fundamentally streets, but it's repair, or is it
No.
resurfacing? Or-
No, it's like, right now we're doing ponds. With the ponds, the stormwater ponds aren't meeting the requirements of the state. So we have there's 5 ponds that have been identified that would, if we do the.
that belong to the town.
Mhm. If we do the upgrades, then they would meet the standards, and then, but we're supposed to have 20% of the ponds, and again, this would be better for Melinda to explain. But there's a certain percentage of our impervious surface and ponds that need to be at a certain standard based on the total in the town.
Okay, I was thrown off by when you used an impervious surfaces, that's like roads. And the more roads you have, the more stormwater management capacity you need. But are you also talking about like the structures that are in the stormwater management ponds?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
It sounds like to me that they weren't built properly to start with, maybe.
Well, I think they made some changes a few years ago, and now we have to, or no, sorry, there were I'm trying to remember what she told me back in, I want to say the 1990s, anything that's older than that that were built before the certain date doesn't meet the new requirements or specifications, and those need to be updated, and you have to have a certain percentage each year updated.
Okay.
But I will ask her for a better explanation on that and send it to you guys.
So I'm thinking Redwood Lake might need to be added to that. Structures falling.
So,
Hold on.
So, Karina, we
I
have a-
listing of projects that have been started. It's in my,
so
I see the project.
it's 2:48 now. I believe we need to, what is it that what are the major dates that we need to consider? And I think we need to go over our recommendations for the council.
so I have to give the council the budget for review on the 11th.
The 11th.
Yes, that's when I have to have it to them.
The 11th of March,
Yes,
next week.
yes.
Next week.
So what more do you need from us to make that happen?
Well, I really just need your recommendations. So we've got two of them, the attorney and the pension plan.
And the 90,000,
And yeah, so
the
there's
planning.
the third one.
Mhm.
So any other ones that you may have? I think those were the only three that we did I guess, recommendation on.
The lawyer,
The attorney,
The attorney.
pension, and the 90,000
90,000.
land use study.
So I think maybe today we should add Karina's suggestions of a project manager and,
Yeah.
get that,
Do you do that? I mean.
get that started. Everybody, I mean,
Yeah, show some, that something's been achieved.
Well,
Town needs to, the town needs to close that circle.
take a look at our comp plan. One of the things that were in our comp plan back in 2020 was to have a formal asset assessment done. And we just now hired a asset manager.
Okay,
That
so
will
you're,
take
you're
time.
demonstrating what we're recommending. You went ahead and hired a project manager to
Well,
make sure the asset management would be
and
done.
I hired a procurement and asset manager.
Right, so we need project managers to manage these projects that we've obtained funding for, get them done,
Yeah, for outside fundings.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as you go forward, budget that into.
And actually, those would be budgeted in the capital budget because they're capital projects. So they are, so when I send out the worksheets to all the departments, anything that I knew already about, I filled in as much, well, our asset manager filled in as much as possible based on the information. But in that, I'm also asking for, even though you might have grant funding for some of this, it's not 100% grant funding like the Dorchester Community Center. We are getting 100% grant funding. The PD building, we're not getting
Yeah,
any.
it's usually the case. You
So,
don't get 100%.
yeah. So you still need to provide, how does it fit in our strategic or comp plan? Because they both got that, they got both the strategic plan and the comp plan when they got the budget manual I sent to them, that was appendix of it. And then provide a description, provide justification for it. And then all those things that we went through with the criteria that we're gonna rank, that's in there too, for them to explain why. And then, of course, there's, okay, how long is this asset gonna last? Where's the funding coming from? What year are you gonna start this? What year is it gonna end? Is there any operating costs involved in this? What are the operating costs? Those type of things.
So then should we do a motion to add the project manager as a recommendation?
So moved.
Okay.
second.
Any
Call for vote.
call for vote?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's,
All in favor?
all in favor, thank you.
Yeah.
So 4 items.
No abstentions, right? No nays? Okay.
So we said that we were gonna write this up, right?
Yes.
Come from the chair.
Recommendations that you guys actually voted on,
Mhm.
would have a copy of that, because that's gonna be in the
In
minutes.
the minutes. Mhm.
If there's anything that, I guess, you say you want to make a comment on the budget, I wouldn't mind including that into the budget document. I know there's some suggestions, and I know Randy and I have talked about some suggestions that's internally that wouldn't go to the council, that we would evaluate internally and how we would move forward with those.
Processes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the expense, I know we're running short of time, but I'm a little bit bothered by it. So let's pick a project and just name one of the projects that we've got funding for.
Well, we've got the Dorchester community
Okay,
that,
say Dorchester Community. So who would have dreamt up that project in the first place? A department or the council?
I think it came from the council. I'm
But
not
then the
sure.
council's saying we don't need project managers.
Yeah. Don't quote me, but I thought it was from the council, that there was one council member really pushing for this.
And the funding is external money from an external
State.
source.
Yes.
And state,
Capital grant.
usually when you put a grant in, you have interim deadlines, you have quarterly reporting,
Yeah.
you have,
Well, we haven't gotten to that point. So nobody, so this.
so this is
funding
new.
Went back and was put out there in 2020. Nobody submitted the applications for the funding. But we've also haven't done any of the work. So I submitted the applications for all, there's 5 capital projects that they're providing funding. Well, there's 5 funding sources for 2 capital projects. So I've submitted the application for all of them. We've gotten one back, which we've signed the contract, and that's for the police station. I believe that's 100,000. We are now ready to draw down on that.
Okay, so you have 100K coming from the state
Yeah.
police station. What is the Plato's portion, if any?
Well, when I submitted that, so there's another one, there's 150,000, one too, that has not come through yet. But when I submitted that, I said all the planning and engineering costs was gonna be used for this grant. So the first cost that we're gonna incur is gonna be grant costs, which is.
Okay, so the
planning and
100K
engineering.
is, and you've got how long to do that?
I believe 4 years. We have to use it within 4 years.
And it's 100K, it's not gonna go far.
So we've got another one for 150.
Okay, and what's, is that piggybacking on top of the 100 or?
Yes,
Okay, and is it for the same project?
yes,
Um,
it is.
and is it-
Now, that one we haven't received the contract for yet.
Okay, but what will that be covering cost wise?
The planning and engineering of the new police building.
So what was the first planning and engineering for then?
Those were 2 separate grants.
Uh-huh.
I've submitted the budget to cover the planning and engineering.
So for the entire project, you're looking at $250,000
For
then?
the planning and engineering, the building
Okay.
itself, the town's gonna have to fund.
Okay, but the town doesn't have a cost match or anything
No,
in this
no.
funding. So they have 200, they have 100,000 that's in-house already.
Yep.
And
Well,
150 that you think you're gonna
They don't
get.
give us the funds. I
You
have to
draw it down,
report it
yeah.
to draw, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, it's yours.
Mhm.
It's already. okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if
I
it's for
think- I
planning
think-
and engineering, you could
I think,
contract out
Yeah.
with that.
yeah, I think we need a list of all the
Yeah.
projects that are in that
So there's
category.
projects that we are getting grant funding for. That's the police station. That's for the, when I submitted the budget, I specifically did it for the planning and engineering because I wanted to use their monies before we use our monies for this. And the other one is the community, Dorchester Community Center. That one I believe is for 1,250,000. That one goes up for review on the 19th of this month. So
And what is,
Goes up, but review by the home.
by the state.
By the state.
Yeah, it's going for review on this, by the state, which didn't happen with the first one. So
because of the dollar amount?
yeah, it could be, yeah. So if that all goes through fine, that's 500,000 there. Now I've got 2 more that are,
So the 1,250,000, what is that for? What
that's
is
the
your,
Dorchester community.
yeah, and what have you said that you're gonna do with that money?
That is both for the planning, engineering and building. So the budget for that one was 1.8 million. And I took these, so because I had to create a budget, I took these from the only reports that I had, which were presented to the council many, many years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago. So that's what I used when I can put this budget together so that I could request the funds. So
Do you have a match on the Dorchester? So 0 match. It's kind of
But
nice.
it's at the state
mhm.
where it's in the current position that the state can review it,
Yes.
which means someone
Submitted
is
everything.
managing that project. Is it you doing that?
Well, I submitted the applications, but we have to do the work for it. Nobody's doing anything to move it forward.
That's my
The
problem.
financial reporting
And-
I'm doing.
Yeah, but you haven't got Dorchester money yet. It's
Yeah.
not been approved, but you have got approval for the police.
For the 100,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
So putting a project manager on that will eat that up quickly.
I would still be doing the financial reporting based on the activities I have, but somebody else has to do the project.
Yeah.
And the police department wants that
Yeah.
station.
So why don't they give that?
Why don't they
in one
provide a
very-
project manager? Which they could outsource using the funding, right? I'm puzzled
Well,
why the
the
council would step in and say, we don't need a project.
Well, also with the police building, it's not a police function. It's more of a facility management, or public works function, but we could still get a contractor to do it.
Yeah, but my point is, somebody, some entity wants each one of these projects.
Yes,
They should be belling up to the bar, especially if there's outside funding to obtain a project manager to get it done, regardless of what department is actually going to do the work.
yeah.
Okay?
And it is normal under a project like this where you're getting grant funding to hire project managers or external staff part-time or professionals to do this. It's
Yeah.
not, that's normal.
Yes.
So why are they, do they want the money for themselves? Are they worried about money management?
I'm not sure. I mean, I had requested this after the person that solicited these funds for us said that I need to go through this process to get the funds. But we haven't done anything at all for this. We don't even have a plan in place.
So this has reinforced the motion we just passed,
Yes.
that it's really important that the council hear the recommendation that we need project managers for these externally funded projects. That people in our own town department and the community want.
Does this money need to be approved by the Board of Public Works, the State Board of Public Works?
Yeah, so the first 100,000 went through and I got the contract and contract was signed. The 500,000, which is the second project that they've now reviewed, it's going to the Board of Public Works on the 19th. I've got 3 more applications out there that still are in review by the state.
And is the state still funding stuff as rapidly?
That's
as
what
they
I was
were?
wondering.
Because
You know.
I mean, they gave us a $100,000 contract. This one's going up. So I'm hoping the other 3, there's no issue.
When did you get the 100,000?
We got the contract end of January, I believe.
Of 25?
Yeah,
Yeah.
things have changed.
Yeah.
It's taken a long time.
So,
So I submitted the original applications back in like
So-
October.
All grants have been
Yeah.
stopped.
I would be concerned about
Yeah.
getting more money on
That-
these.
that-
Me too.
Yeah,
That's why I want to know where it was going.
yeah, it's a good
Well, I
question.
submitted these back in October. And then there was an issue about the historic preservation, which we got all the paperwork there, but when they sent me the letters back, they sent it one for each project. And the state came back, no, we need you to get a letter for each grant. So I had to go back to the historic preservation, say, hey, I needed a letter for each grant. And bear in mind, each time I go back, it takes about a month for them to get back to me. So they got me those letters at the beginning of February. I've submitted them with the applications. So hopefully everything goes fine.
Well,
So this is,
if the state already has the money, then it'll come out. If they don't have the money, they're not gonna be getting it for at
Yeah,
least a
and
while.
it's ARPA
They
money,
don't.
so they have that money.
Okay.
I don't know if it is.
I don't know.
Well, the ARPA money all came out of the COVID stuff. It was.
Yeah, I don't
We're
know.
expecting people to use it.
I don't know, how the state allocated their ARPA funds. We allocated our ARPA funds on different projects that we do internally, because we've got those funds and so we actually received the ARPA funds up front, like $9 million. And then we put it in a liability until we actually did the work to, use those funds. And in FY24, you can see where we used over 6 million of those funds, because of the budget change so that we wouldn't lose the funding.
And our next meeting is,
good question.
Thursday, the 2 would be the regular meeting.
Oh, that's right. We're back again.
So the
Thursday, the
the 13th.
13th, which is 2
The-
days after you submit something.
Yeah,
So if you guys want to write a letter or some type of thing, I can include it in, because the idea that I'm gonna do with the budget document is basically, have a summary of the revenues and the expenses, and then each department have a description and, why they need the funding, their goals and objectives for FY 26, a personnel schedule, and then the line item budget for each department under those, and then I can insert any, letters from the, committee for that. But I also intend to have the recommendations that you guys voted on. So now there's 4 in there as well.
So in your submission, you're just going to list just these recommendations
Yeah,
with
these
no,
are, these are gonna be the,
no comments for each one or?
I was hoping that the chair,
I can do
Yeah.
that. When do you need it by?
well, I was hoping that you guys could be present during the budget meetings, which is on the 18th, to present your recommendations.
Okay.
I just have to submit the budget to them so that they have time to review it. And then there's, a meeting on the 18th to go over it,
What time is the meeting on the 18th?
6 o'clock. I believe the 18th is the Tuesday, whatever that Tuesday
Mhm.
It
is,
is.
6 o'clock. And that's where, the finance committee would present their recommendations. Which I could put in the document. These are the recommendations of the finance committee, which will be presented on the 18th.
So the meeting on the 13th is at 2 o'clock, 2 hours.
Yeah, unless you guys want to make it earlier and longer.
I personally can't make it longer. I've got
Well, we've reviewed the budget. You guys made your recommendations there. I know we have to go over, the rules of procedure. I know there's some changes that we need to add that, recommendations would be presented by the chair or vice chair in those. And there were a couple other edits that you guys wanted. So we do need to go over that. I won't have the capital worksheets back before then. But as soon as I get this, I asked for the departments, I sent it to them, Friday last week, and told them that it was due March 31st. So hopefully they get back to me so that we can review those.
so the council's not expecting that one.
No, right now, the only thing I'm presenting them is the operating budget. Up until this year, we did everything together. We're now separating doing the operating budget, and then we're doing the capital.
Okay. Are the enterprise in the 11th as well, or?
No, the
Okay.
enterprise, so the general fund budget is on the 18th and the enterprise fund is the following Tuesday,
Okay,
whichever day that is.
25th.
so for the 13th, meeting on the 13th, do we want to go over what we want to present on the 18th? That's a question.
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How far in advance of the 18th meeting do you have to provide the council paperwork?
I have to provide it by Thursday at noon.
Which is after the
13th.
meeting that we're having.
After the meeting. Okay.
Oh, yeah, Kelly, we can.
So I think,
But as long as she has the written recommendations, that would be enough to put in there. If we're going to present them and
Think so.
contextualize them.
We can, give the recommendations after a meeting so that she can include them for the meeting on the 18th.
okay. Okay,
So chair and the vice chair are going to the meeting on the 18th to make this presentation.
I will be there on the 18th.
You will be there on the 18th. Will you be there too?
I can be there.
If anybody else in this committee wants to show up and more support.
Yeah. That would be nice.
Typically, I mean, very often I'll attend by internet, but maybe I'll attend in person. I think we got a lot done today.
Yeah.
We're getting better at it.
Now I need to get all this information in a nice, pretty format and get it together and get it to them by the 11th.
and when they make a presentation, the 18th, is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay. So we want to give you moral support and
Perfect.
I can tell you, you're gonna get some.
I'd be very interested for someone to explain why a project manager isn't needed. I would like to hear that rationale.
Yeah, because it was one thing, I'm like, nobody's done anything with these projects. Well, it's because nobody's taking ownership of any of the projects and everybody's too busy to take ownership. Nobody has the time to manage these. So that's why I suggested a project manager, because it doesn't seem like we're moving forward.
And it's within the scope of the grant.
Motion to adjourn?
so move. Second, oh, you're not the.
Are you gonna stop us from walking out the door, Joe?
Not at all. I'm gonna lead the way.
All right, thank you very much. Love getting feedback and reinforcing some of my recommendations.